Chapter 1262. To restore the glower flame fan, it required a drop of Yi Qing Luo's heart blood and her heart bone. Using these two things as raw materials, the armament master would recast the glower flame fan. It would definitely be able to restore the glower flame fan and make the connection between the glower flame fan and Yi Qing Luo stronger. I will use profound energy to extract the heart blood and heart bone for you. Diamo Xian looked at the young lady in front of him, his eyes filled with determination as he gently caressed her cheek. Yi Qing Luo nodded, but, Armament Master, I don't know any armament master. If it was refining pills she could still volunteer. But refining armaments. She didn't seem to have heard of anyone among the people she knew who studied weapon forging. Moreover, the glower flame fan could grow and was second only to the legendary grade weapon. Ordinary armament masters had no way to restore it. At least, the armament master's grade had to reach armament sect and above. Armament masters and alchemists were similar. From low to high the order was armament slave, armament apprentice, armament master, armament grandmaster, armament sect, armament emperor, armament immortal, armament god. The only difference was armament sect level armament master was even more difficult than alchemist level alchemist. The success rate of armament refining was even more difficult than alchemist level. Even if Yi Qing Luo knew some armament masters, but there was absolutely no one who could reach armament sect level. The Imperial Palace has one. Since Diamo Xian said this method, naturally he knew some armament sect armament masters. He cupped Yi Qing Luo's face with both hands as he closed the distance between them, but... He paused for a moment and then said with a somewhat cautious tone, the equipment forger was a woman. Yi Qing Luo's joyous expression instantly froze on her lips. Lady? Why were there so many ladies in the Imperial Palace? She frowned slightly as an inexplicable feeling of resistance arose in her heart. An image of Feng Ling holding onto Diamo Xian's arm appeared in her mind, occupying her position. Suddenly it flashed and the scene of Diamo Xian and Feng Ling getting married appeared in the illusion. Her hands which were placed on Diamo Xian's shoulders suddenly pinched hard as she snorted, "Don't look for her. Isn't it just a armament sect level armament master? We can slowly look for her. She's not the only armament sect level armament master in this world." But? Is there a but? Yi Qing Luo's eyes opened wide. She hadn't forgotten that the reason why Diamo Xian called Feng Ling over from the Imperial Palace was to break the enchantment which the dark forces had conjured. Now because of the restoration of the glower flame fan, if there was a second wind chime, she would not be able to control herself and strangle Diamo Xian to death. Diamo Xian's gaze passed over her shoulder and fixed on a certain spot. But she's already here. Yi Qing Luo froze. Loosening her grip on Diamo Xian's clothes, she followed his line of sight and looked behind her. Sure enough, a woman in a light blue dress with long sleeves drifting in the wind slowly walked over with a faint smile on her face. Standing in front of the both of them, the woman knelt down on one knee and paid her respects to Diamo Xian. This subordinate pays her respects to Sir Overlord. She paused and a teasing look flashed across her eyes. Greetings, mistress of the Imperial Palace. A mistress? Yi Qing Luo held her breath as she turned her head to look at Diamo Xian. Diamo Xian caressed her hair and waved his hand. Beiyuan, get up first. The woman stood up and walked to the seat opposite Diamo Xian as she sat down. A pair of crafty and teasing eyes sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe. The relationship between Sir Overlord and Mistress of the Imperial Palace is really good, but let's settle the proper business first. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her cheeks flushed red instantly. Chapter 1263. In this era this kind of posture could be considered as immoral. Even between husband and wife, they didn't dare to do such an action in such a noisy place like the restaurant. Yi Qing Luo's only thought now was to dig a hole in the ground and disappear in front of these two people's eyes. In front of Diamo Xian's subordinates, she sat on Diamo Xian's thighs and even pestered him to be jealous. How would she have the face to meet the other people in the Imperial Palace in future? Yi Qing Luo wanted to cry but no tears came out. It was all that crazy beast's fault. When he flirted with her, he didn't even tell her in advance that there would be other people coming. Yi Qing Luo raised her fist and wanted to punch Diamo Xian. But when he remembered that there was a beautiful woman looking at the two of them with a smile on her face, he couldn't help it. She suppressed her anger and retracted her hand. She stood up and speedily returned to her seat. Lil Luo, ha ha ha. Diamo Xian was tickled by her actions as he laughed out loud. That peerless face because of that smile looked even more handsome. Yiqing Luo was furious as she stared at him fiercely. Shameless beast, just you wait. Now that your subordinate is here, I will give you face, later your subordinate will leave. I'll peel your skin off in minutes. Diamo Xian raised his brows as his eyes narrowed. All right, I will wait for you. The two of them exchanged flirtatious glances, which made the beautiful lady sitting by the side unable to restrain her laughter. She crossed her arms leisurely as she leaned back on the chair, looking at Diamo Xian in ridicule. Noticing the lady's gaze, Yiqing Luo was really tempted. Damn it, there was probably no chance for her to establish her prestige in the imperial palace in future. The beautiful lady's beautiful eyes were filled with smiles as she looked at Yiqing Luo's direction and spoke respectfully. I am Tang Beiyuan, the imperial palace's armament refining hall master and also the overlord's exclusive armament master. Saying that, she raised her brows with some interest, but what the imperial palace's mistress is worried about will absolutely not happen. Although I am the overlord's exclusive armament master, but my life belongs to another man. Yiqing Luo heard that and knew that this lady was ridiculing what she said to Diamo Xian earlier. But Yiqing Luo didn't hear any bit of disgust or displeasure. Tang Beiyuan's teasing was kind. Tang Beiyuan was not as well behaved as wind in front of Diamo Xian. This was enough to prove that Tang Beiyuan and Diamo Xian's relationship was rather harmonious. Tang Beiyuan had just said that her life belonged to another man. The sentence, "You're married?" Such a young and outstanding woman, how could she have gotten married so early? Tang Beiyuan shook her head with a bitter smile. We're not married yet, but I don't think I'll have to wait too long. She didn't even have the confidence to say the last word, maybe. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. It was obvious that Tang Beiyuan was genuinely in love with her fiancé. As for the reason why they didn't get married, Yiqing Luo didn't ask too much. After all, this was only the first time they had met. One thing was certain. Just as Tang Beiyuan had said, what she was worried about would never happen. I'm sorry. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth gently, apologizing for her action of assuming that Tang Beiyuan was the second Feng Ling before they had even met. Chapter 1264. Subdue? Tang Beiyuan's choice of words seemed a little. This is the first time I've seen such an overlord. Tang Beiyuan propped her chin as her beautiful eyes stared at Diamo Xian's face. The current overlord finally looks like a human. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Diamo Xian. Looks like a human? What kind of evaluation was that? Could it be Diamo Xian didn't look like a human in the past? Yiqing Luo recalled her past self, living like a machine that exhausted all its energy for the secluded Yi family. She didn't look like a human at that time. Could it be that Diamo Xian was the same as her in the past? Yiqing Luo felt like laughing as she imagined the past Diamo Xian. Beiyuan. Diamo Xian berated Tang Beiyuan's name, but his tone didn't have any signs of majesty. He looked at Yiqing Luo, who was still laughing, as one hand slid under the table towards Yiqing Luo's direction. His slender fingers silently covered Yiqing Luo's legs. Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffened as a short cry came out from her mouth. Tang Beiyuan looked at her in puzzlement. What's the matter? No, nothing. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as she shook her head with a blushing face. His hand actually, using the table as a cover, his fingers gently and slowly brushed past her legs. From time to time, it brushed past her thighs. For the convenience of the competition, Yiqing Luo had designed the uniform to be extremely tight. The trousers below the skirt were almost stuck to her skin. Diamo Xian's hand swept past her tight trousers, which was equivalent to touching the skin on her legs. That layer of trousers made her feel even more itchy. Mistress, why is your face so red? Tang Beiyuan saw that Yiqing Luo didn't seem to be fine and immediately looked at Diamo Xian. Overlord, is mistress feeling unwell? Diamo Xian lifted the teacup elegantly and drank a mouthful of tea. She's thin-skinned and is regretting after you saw her fierce look earlier. Tang Beiyuan nodded her head as she retracted her worried gaze. Mistress, don't worry, I won't tell anyone else in the imperial palace about today's matter. Yiqing Luo gave a few dry laughs as her body tensed up. She gave a dry laugh as she turned her head and gave Diamo Xian a warning stare. Where did this beast learn to flirt with girls? Unexpectedly, he actually did such a thing to her under the table. The more she stared, the more she stared. The hand on her thigh became more and more wanton. Furthermore, it faintly brushed past the inside of her great moon retreat, causing her to tremble even more violently. What made Yiqing Luo unable to balance was, the Emperor Avian calmly sipped its tea. Yiqing Luo's little face was burning as she saw Diamo Xian ignoring her gaze. She clenched her teeth and simply picked up the teacup as her other hand slid under the table without anyone noticing and held onto Diamo Xian's large palm. Just as she touched Diamo Xian's hand, Diamo Xian had already planned this beforehand as he held her wrist in reverse. Yiqing Luo struggled and his grip tightened. Just as Yiqing Luo flew into a rage out of humiliation, putting down the teacup and was about to add her other hand into the battlefield, Diamo Xian timely brought the topic back to business. Beiyuan, the glower flame fan is here, take a look and see how confident you are. Saying that, he pushed the glower flame fan which was broken into 2 pieces towards Tang Beiyuan. Yiqing Luo's resistance stopped. At this moment, she had no mood to continue messing around with Diamo Xian. Chapter 1265. Tang Beiyuan fiddled with the broken glowing fan. She glanced at the gap and rolled her eyes. Dizun, are you questioning my skills? Diamo Xian glanced at the young lady beside him. Tang Beiyuan nodded her head as her fingers caressed the glower flame fan and smiled at Yiqing Luo. Mistress, I have 100% confidence. 100%. Which meant 100% of the glower flame fan could be restored. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up as she looked at Diamo Xian in delight. The glower flame fan can be restored. It can be restored. Luckily, the glower flame fan was a growing attribute. There was still room for redemption. His heart, which had been hanging in the air, slowly sank into the bottom of his heart. Her little hand clenched the big palm on her thigh. I'm ready to extract the heart bone and blood anytime. Diamo Xian's fingers caressed her palm as he said warmly, you must be tired from today's competition and exhausted too much energy. Forcefully extracting the heart bone and blood will affect your body. Extract the heart bone and blood, preferably in the wee hours of the morning, the second bell. Tang Beiyuan continued. Wee hours? Yiqing Luo looked at Diamo Xian. Can we do it tonight? Before that, if your body can meet the requirements of extracting the heart bone and blood, yes. Diamo Xian didn't object. Knowing that the glower flame fan could be restored, and with 100% confidence, Yiqing Luo didn't insist any further. Today's competition was too dangerous and she was indeed tired. After the meal, Tang Beiyuan stayed in the restaurant. As for Diamo Xian and Yiqing Luo, they returned to the dormitory. Yiqing Luo needed a good rest. After the interclass competition there were 2 days of free time. It was said that because of the interclass competition, the students had been tense for a long time and used profound energy on a large scale, so it gave the students time to relax. In fact, these 2 days, it was to let the students report their results back to their elders. Or stay at the West Square and get to know the forces from all over the world. If he was lucky, he would be able to decide which faction he would belong to after he graduated from the academy in the next 2 days. The 2 of them had just arrived at the entrance of the mansion when they saw a group of students dressed in class uniforms surrounding the entrance tightly. Those students were mostly youngsters. But when he looked inside, he saw many girls who were talking at once and laughing joyfully. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 50 to 60 people. Towards this kind of excitement, Yiqing Luo had always had no interest, especially now that her mind was preoccupied with repairing the glowing flame fan. But when she passed by the entrance, Yiqing Luo obviously heard those ladies mentioning her name. Not only that, there were also Supreme Mo's words. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as her slender brows creased slightly as she looked at those students who were surrounding her. Just as she was about to walk over, her body was forcefully pulled towards the mansion by Diamo Xian. Don't bother about unimportant people. The most important thing now is for you to return to your room and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo staggered a few steps forward as she looked at Diamo Xian in puzzlement. However, she found that his expression was a little ugly, as if he was trying to hold back some emotions. His eagerness to pull her away did not seem to be just to let her rest earlier. Instead, what were those students talking about when they were gathered together? Yiqing Luo turned her head and swept a glance in the direction of the 50 to 60 students. Although she had doubts in her heart, but she tactfully didn't ask too much. Suddenly, a melodious laughter was heard from behind. Brother Supreme Mo, you're finally back. Chapter 1266. A jade-green figure forcefully knocked Yiqing Luo away. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention and was knocked back a few steps. She looked up and saw Feng Ling holding Diamo Xian's arm tightly. Brother Supreme Mo, Xiaoling has waited for a long time, you're finally back. Yiqing Luo steadied herself and a trace of coldness surfaced in her eyes. How did Feng Ling know that Diamo Xian was Supreme Mo? Why was Feng Ling here? Xiaoling let go. Diamo Xian's expression sank as his cold eyes swept past the woman who was holding his arm. The disgust in his eyes was obvious. Feng Ling pursed her red lips. It wasn't that she didn't see the disgust in Diamo Xian's eyes, but she still wasn't willing to let go of him. No matter how much Diamo Xian hated her, Diamo Xian couldn't reject her completely. As long as her grandma was around, she could do whatever she wanted without any scruples. Feng Ling restrained the surging emotions in her heart and hugged Diamo Xian's arm tighter. She practically buried Diamo Xian's arm right into that proud ravine on her chest. Brother Supreme Mo, don't chase Xiaoling away. Xiaoling will be obedient and won't disturb you. Feng Ling softened her tone and begged for mercy. Shaking Diamo Xian's arm, it brushed past her proud place. Diamo Xian's expression was overcast and the fingers on his arm were clenched into a fist. His voice was cold and filled with warning. Let go. Feng Ling was so frightened by the coldness in his eyes that her whole body trembled, and her heart beat in fear. But she still didn't let go of Diamo Xian's arm. She licked her red lips which were dry from nervousness and simply buried her entire body into Diamo Xian's embrace. Just as Feng Ling was about to bury herself in Diamo Xian's arms, her arm suddenly felt a tingling pain. Immediately after, his body felt light as he was fiercely flung away by a strong force. Ah! Feng Ling fell heavily on the ground and let out a scream. Pain. The intense pain spread from her buttocks. Her whole body felt like her bones were broken and the pain was indescribable. The pain on her body couldn't compare to the pain in her heart. Feng Ling's eyes were red and her delicate face was pale. He actually pushed her away. Furthermore, he had pushed her away in such a rough manner. Did Brother D hate her that much? Was he so disgusted that he felt annoyed just by looking at her? Little Ling, are you all right? Teacher Mo, she's your fiancée after all. How could you treat her like this? Esteemed Teacher Mo, you are our teacher. You should set a good example. By treating your fiancée like this, are you teaching us how to treat our fiancés in the future? The students who were originally surrounding Feng Ling immediately went forward and helped Feng Ling up while defending her. There were a few students who stared furiously at the expressionless Yiqing Luo who was standing by the side. Yiqing Luo noticed it. The students looked at her as if they were looking at a vixen. Ah, fiancé? Even using her toes, Yiqing Luo could imagine what Feng Ling and these students were discussing about earlier. It was none other than, Feng Ling was Supreme Mo's fiancé. As for Supreme Mo, because of her, a proud student, he treated Feng Ling, his fiancé, coldly. Hence, Feng Ling came here to call back her fiancé's love for herself and so on. Even if it wasn't what Yiqing Luo had imagined, but the content was almost the same. Yiqing Luo only had 2 words to express her current feelings. Chapter 1267. Fiancé? Diamo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes as he repeated the 3 words softly. Feng Ling, who stood up with the help of the students, looked at him anxiously. She bit her red lips lightly, looking as though she wanted to say something but stopped. Diamo Xian sneered as his thin lips twitched as he looked at Feng Ling and repeated the words again. Fiancé him? Mo, brother Supreme Mo? Feng Ling sobbed softly as her pair of beautiful eyes and eyelashes were already wet with tears. That pitiful and weak look made one feel pity for her. Don't be afraid, little Ling. Even if he's the elder of the headquarters, if he's so fickle and doesn't acknowledge his fiancée, then we'll report this matter to the headquarters. The one who stood out to speak was a female student from High Profound Class 2. High Profound Class 2 had now become a joke. Under Lu Shuilan's intentional embellishment, all the students were certain that this time they had lost all their face and were going to be demoted was all because of Yiqing Luo's sinister and cunning. The female student pulled Feng Ling behind her and pointed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Master Supreme Mo, touch your own conscience and say, do you treat her as your student or as a woman? With someone taking the lead to speak, the other female students' emotions were also infected. That's right, Master Supreme Mo, you already have a fiancé, so you shouldn't be so ambiguous with female students. What's more, student Yiqing Luo and the Overlord already have that kind of improper relationship. Student Yiqing Luo, don't you feel guilty for ruining their fiancé relationship? The female students were filled with righteous indignation. There were some female students who could empathize with her and felt that a woman's fate was really miserable as they directly walked up to Yiqing Luo, pointing at her and scolding Vixen. For a moment, the entire entrance of the dormitory was bustling with noise. Diamo Xian's frosty eyes were as sharp as a blade. He lifted his feet and was about to walk towards Yiqing Luo when he was stopped by a gaze from Yiqing Luo. His footsteps paused slightly, and when his gaze met Yiqing Luo, it eased up slightly. Yiqing Luo looked at the two female students and raised her brows with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you done? The profound energy which was released invisibly made the two female students feel pressured. They trembled and took a few steps back, not daring to speak again. Since you're done then, listen to me. Yiqing Luo took a step forward slowly. The two female students retreated in fear. One of them felt her legs wobbling, and when Yiqing Luo got closer, she collapsed onto the ground as she grabbed onto another female student's trousers tightly. The female student raised her leg in fear and kicked the student who had fallen to the ground away. She hurriedly rushed towards the crowd. Yiqing Luo stood firmly next to that female student as she bent down and looked down at her. Last night at the entrance of Gentle Village, I saw you dressed up gorgeously with a man. Her voice paused, her thin eyebrows slightly raised, and the corners of her mouth carried a teasing smile. The female student's face instantly turned pale. Ignoring her fear, she shouted angrily, "You're slandering me. I was with my classmates at the mansion last night. How could I go to a place like the Village of Tenderness?" The Land of Tenderness was the green wooden pavilion of the West Billow Square. An unmarried woman in a land of gentleness. If this matter were to be spread out, her reputation would be completely ruined. The female student's explanation didn't gain the trust of the surrounding people. The students were all pointing fingers at her. Chapter 1268. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she looked at that hand which was clutching her tightly. She didn't struggle free but only raised her eyes as she met that female student's gaze with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Then which eye of yours saw me spoiling their fiancé relationship? What rights do you have to spout nonsense and ruin my reputation? The female student's hysterical roar came to an abrupt stop. The sounds of discussion in the surroundings also stopped abruptly. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as her slender fingers held onto that hand which was on her lapel. One finger, she pried her apart. Anyone can say such slanderous words and anyone can say it. You just treat it as something which you say casually, but have you ever thought about the serious consequences it will cause to others? Yiqing Luo's voice was very soft but it carried an irresistible charm. The invisible pressure which was released made everyone's gazes unknowingly revolved around her. Easily listening to someone's words, I don't know if I should laugh at your naivety or at your stupidity. Yiqing Luo shook off the female student's hand as she looked at her condescendingly. How long have you known Feng Ling for? Just act coquettishly, give in and obediently become her tool. The female student's expression changed. All the students' gazes instantly turned towards Feng Ling. The female student who was originally blocking in front of Feng Ling also slowly shifted her body as she turned her head towards Feng Ling, her eyes filled with suspicion. That's right. How long had they known Feng Ling for? Just based on a few words from Feng Ling, they had already scolded Master Mo? Those few students who had voiced out earlier felt a chill down their spines as they broke out in cold sweat. The gazes which they shot towards Feng Ling became increasingly unfriendly. I didn't. What I said is all true. She did it on purpose. Feng Ling panicked as she stuttered to explain. She had not expected Yiqing Luo to be so quick-witted. Just a few words and she had made those students who were on her side, who were filled with righteous indignation to stand up for her, instantly betray. You. Yiqing Luo suddenly pointed towards that female student from High Profound Class 2. The female student's body stiffened as she didn't even dare to breathe loudly. You said that I have an improper relationship with the Overlord. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly, the smile on her lips was elegant, like a dream or fantasy. However, that pair of charming eyes, which were suffused with rippling light, was so cold that it caused one's entire body to shiver. Let me make a correction. The Overlord and I are in a serious relationship. Don't use the word improper on us. All the students sucked in a breath of cold air. Was she openly admitting that she had a close relationship with His Majesty, the Overlord? Didn't they say that they were master and disciple? Could it be that they had advanced from master and disciple to that kind of relationship? But Yiqing Luo didn't give them any time to digest. Instead, he walked straight to wind chimes. His steps were light and slow, but he carried a strong and intimidating aura. Windling was so frightened that she retreated. She instinctively wanted to seek help from the people around her. However, the students who were comforting her gently and standing beside her just a moment ago didn't seem to see her pleading eyes. Yiqing Luo smiled. Her smile was extremely joyous. Those who can be easily persuaded by you can also be easily persuaded by others. She moved closer to Feng Ling's ear and whispered. The human heart was like this. Listening to the wind was the wind, listening to the rain was the rain. But she didn't know how to personally verify whether it was the wind or the rain. Looking at Windling's pale little face, she looked as though she had suffered a huge blow and was extremely frail. Her smile became even more enchanting and radiant as her vision slowly turned towards the man who was looking at her silently with a doting gaze. Chapter 1269. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Feng Ling's petite body shuddered. Her gaze was immediately glued to Diamo Shen's body, a pair of reddened eyes and her wet eyelashes fluttered incessantly. Just a moment later, the bean-sized tears rolled down from the corner of her eyes. Her pitiful look was obviously begging Diamo Shen not to expose her in front of everyone. Feng Ling was very clear. Under Yi Qing Luo's conscious guidance, these students had developed an extreme distrust towards her. If Diamo Shen denied that she was his fiancée, that also meant that the story she had fabricated earlier was indeed false. Which meant that she was indeed like what Yi Qing Luo said, making use of everyone's sympathy, using everyone as a tool. How indignant those students were to stand up for her just now. After knowing the truth, how indignant they would be, accusing her of using and lying. These students? They would peel off her skin. Just imagining the consequences in her mind, Feng Ling's body couldn't stop trembling. Diamo Shen didn't speak for a long time. Her mood was getting more and more uneasy. Finally, Feng Ling couldn't hold it in any longer and directly rushed towards Diamo Shen's direction. Brother Emo Supreme, quickly answer them. Didn't you promise Grandma that you will do your best to protect little Ling? Feng Ling stretched out her hand, trying to hug Diamo Shen's arm. In his words, he deliberately emphasized the word, Grandma. But the progress in Feng Ling's thoughts were completely in the opposite direction. Her hand had yet to touch Diamo Shen. Diamo Shen dodged sideways. Feng Ling's hand, froze in midair, looked at him incredulously. That face which made her crazy had no emotions at all. That pair of eyes which made her intoxicated, was so cold as if it was quenched with ice. He stood there without any adornment in his master's robe, swaying in the wind, like a banished immortal. His rosy thin lips, bit by bit, curled into an arc which made her sink in. Feng Ling was so frightened that her delicate body trembled, almost crying out loud. From Diamo Shen's action of avoiding her, Feng Ling had already guessed his choice. She is not my fiancée. Diamo Shen's voice was calm, his expression indifferent. His words were like needles stabbing into wind chimes' eardrums. Her head was throbbing and she could clearly hear something breaking in her chest. Brother Supreme Emo. Feng Ling miserably called out Diamo Shen's name. She could not believe that even if she brought out her grandmother, the man she loved still mercilessly exposed her. Through the corner of her eyes, Feng Ling glanced at the girl who was standing on the other side and looking at her provocatively. His cheeks felt like they were on fire. A sense of humiliation arose spontaneously. The person her brother D respected the most was her grandmother. But now, for the sake of one woman and another woman, her big brother D was even willing to disregard his own grandmother. What was so good about Yi Qing Luo? What was good about Yi Qing Luo? Why did her brother D treat her in this way because of Yi Qing Luo? The more Feng Ling thought about it, the more unbalanced she felt. His hatred towards Yi Qing Luo intensified. Suddenly, a quiet and low voice sounded in his ears. His voice was so soft that only the two of them could hear him. Little Ling, don't waste all the kindness that your grandmother had painstakingly accumulated for you. You know very well that this lord's patience is not good. She is my reverse scale. Just 3 simple sentences, but it seemed as if there were turbulent waves surging in Feng Ling's heart. He was warning her? He wanted to tell her. Chapter 1270. This knowledge made Feng Ling's body sway slightly. Her entire body was weak and she almost fell onto the ground. A bone-piercing chill extended from her feet to her heart. Her entire body seemed to be wrapped in ice. Just because she had tarnished Yi Qing Luo's reputation. So, Diamo Shen also wanted to tarnish her reputation? Because he was worried that Yi Qing Luo would misunderstand. So, Diamo Shen avoided her from getting close to him? Just to please Yi Qing Luo. So, Diamo Shen could ignore her grandmother's kindness? He. Windling chuckled softly. The pain of her heart tearing made her wish that she was dead. Miss Feng, Senior Master Emo, is an elder of the headquarters. I'm very curious, who sent you to purposely defame Senior Master Emo? A clear voice sounded from the side. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly as she gazed at Feng Ling, or perhaps, you're purely admiring Master Emo, so you're delusional that you're his fiancée? So you intentionally instigated the students, attempting to force Master Emo to accept your disrespectful delusions for your sake? Yiqing Luo's words instantly made those students who were originally infuriated by Feng Ling burst out laughing. Pairs of disdainful eyes fell on Feng Ling. Looking at Feng Ling was like looking at a nauseating love-struck fool. Feng Ling had grown up in the imperial palace since young. Because of her grandmother, she had always been the center of attention since young, as everyone revolved around her. Since when had she suffered such humiliation? Her face turned pale as tears uncontrollably flowed out. Her teary eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. She turned around and covered her face as she sobbed softly and walked far away. A few female students chased after her as they scolded and swore that the next time they saw Feng Ling, they would definitely catch her and give her a good beating. As for the other male students, when they saw Feng Ling's pitiful crying look as she left, they couldn't bear to chase after her. For a moment, all the students were discussing about what happened earlier. Yiqing Luo guessed. Probably in less than a joss stick's time, the entire West Lawn Public Square would probably know about a lady named Feng Ling, shamelessly deceiving everyone, delusional that she was Master Emo Xian's fiancée. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she shot a glance at Emo Xian and snorted lightly. Without looking back, he walked into the dormitory and returned to his room. Although she appeared to be so arrogant on the surface. In actual fact, Emo Xian's actions of avoiding Feng Ling's touch and publicly denying Feng Ling's lies had completely pleased her. Now Winshim had become a joke in West Billow Square. Yiqing Luo expressed that her mood had already bloomed. Although it wasn't clear what was the relationship between Emo Xian and the Imperial Palace's grandma. It was unclear what kind of feelings were involved between Emo Xian and Grandma Earth Palace. But the only thing that Yiqing Luo could confirm was that Emo Xian truly respected the Imperial Palace's granny. Otherwise, Feng Ling would not have used her grandmother to threaten Emo Xian time and time again. For her, Emo Xian rejected Feng Ling. She was already very satisfied. Yiqing Luo quickly returned to her room, waiting for Emo Xian to sneak into her room to look for her. Emo Xian indeed intended to chase after them. But before he could even lift his leg, those students who chased after Feng Ling had already turned back and surrounded him. The students apologized for listening to Feng Ling's words earlier, and reprimanding Master Emo Xian. Deeply afraid that Master Emo Xian would blame them. Pulling and pulling, they refused to let Emo Xian leave no matter what. With Emo Xian's current status, it wasn't convenient for him to fly into a rage and chase these students away. The crowd surged and one by one black heads swayed in front of his eyes. Emo Xian could only look on helplessly as Yiqing Luo's figure slowly disappeared. Emo Xian expressed. Chapter 1271. Three Springs City, the World Mercenary Group's old residence. The students of the Devil class were sent back to the old mansion by 10 horse carriages. They were dispersed and escorted back by the Emperor Palace's disciples. One by one the carriages entered the old mansion. Zhao Bo and the others stepped forward to carry the youths off the carriages. All of them sucked in a breath of cold air. The youths of Devil class laid in the horse carriage, completely unable to move. The faces of the youths were pale, and their brows were tightly knitted together in pain. There were no scars on their bodies, but they seemed to be in extreme pain from head to toe, as if they were on the verge of death. Zhao Bo immediately ordered his men to gently lift the youths off the carriage and send them to their rooms. For a time, the atmosphere in the old mansion was extremely heavy. No one spoke. Only the pained cries of the youths could be heard faintly drifting in the air. The last carriage entered the old house. The first to open the curtains was Qiao Jin, who was dressed in a red uniform and had his brows furrowed. He carried the pale-faced Yan Xiaoyi in his arms and gently leapt off the carriage. Executive Commander. When Zhao Bo saw Qiao Jin, he asked in a low voice with an extremely ugly expression, "What's going on?" He knew that Yiqing Luo and the others were going to take part in the Academy's interclass competition. The competition in the Academy had been witnessed by the various elders and teachers of the Academy. No matter how fierce the battle was, it was impossible for him to be injured to this extent, right? Furthermore, based on the strength of the other students in the Heavenly Academy, how could they hurt this bunch of youngsters? Zhao Bo was full of doubts. Qiao Jin did not reply. His face was ashen as he stared fixedly at the woman in his arms, as if he could no longer see anyone or anything in the outside world. "Where is Holy Pirate?" Long Yunzhan's cold voice came from behind him. Zhao Bo halted his steps and bowed respectfully. "Guild leader." Long Yunzhan coldly nodded. "They are badly hurt. Let's ask Holy Pirate to come." Zhao Bo responded and immediately turned in the direction of Holy Pirate's courtyard. Long Yunzhan looked at the back view of Qiao Jin carrying Yan Xiaoyi as they left. He wanted to catch up and wait for God Pirate's arrival. Just as he was about to lift his leg, Long Yunzhan's ears twitched. A hint of vigilance flashed across his indifferent eyes. Footsteps were approaching. Moreover, there were more than 20 of them. He frowned and turned around. When he saw the person behind him, the seriousness on his face eased a little. "Why are you here?" It was none other than Tao Tao. Behind Peach, there were more than 20 doctors dressed in doctor uniforms with medical boxes on their waists. As far as the eye could see, the youngest doctor was over 50 years old. The doctors were panting heavily, and their foreheads were dripping with sweat. When they arrived at the old house, they wiped the cold sweat off their foreheads and looked around. "Captain Peach Blossom, where are the injured?" Peach also ran all the way here. Her delicate face was covered with a thin layer of sweat. She looked up at Long Yunzhan and panted, "Leader Long, where are the injured people? I specially asked Peach Blossom 3000 to invite the famous doctors near Three Springs City over. Thank you for your hard work." He was about to ask Holy Pirate to find the famous doctor from Three Springs City, but Peach had already made the arrangements. "Thank you." Long Yunzhan curled his lips slightly, his azure blue eyes revealing sincerity. Peach looked at the handsome face in front of her, and a trace of amazement flashed in her eyes. It was the first time she had seen Long Yunzhan smile. All along, Long Yunzhan had been expressionless and emotionless. It was a little surprising. Chapter 1272. He was still dressed like a nouveau riche. Against the sunlight, his entire body shone with a dazzling golden light. In an instant, God Thief was already standing in front of Long Yunzhan as he held onto Long Yunzhan's shoulder. "Qing Luo that last didn't come back with you? Don't tell me, you were beaten up badly in an interclass competition?" "We won the competition." He interrupted Holy Pirate's wild thoughts. "Take these doctors and check their pulses. We can talk about the rest later." Long Yunzhan coldly replied. After saying that, he led the 20 or so doctors to the youngsters' rooms. The old house, which had been silent for a long time, gradually became extremely lively. The doctor came and went. Zhao Bo and the others listened to the doctor's instructions and ran back and forth to help. Yan Xiaoyi's room. Qiao Jin sat by the bed and used a towel to wipe the cold sweat off Yan Xiaoyi's forehead. That delicate little face was now as pale as a sheet of paper. Her usually fiery red lips were now devoid of any color. His breathing was extremely heavy, and from time to time he would let out soft moans of pain. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted together, as if she was enduring the intense pain. Qiao Jin's hand, which was wiping her cold sweat, couldn't stop trembling. Seeing Yan Xiaoyi in such pain, his heart ached even more. He couldn't wait to take her place and bear the pain. Qiao Jin was infinitely vexed. Why wasn't he by Yan Xiaoyi's side when they were at the back mountain? If he had accompanied Yan Xiaoyi wouldn't have suffered such serious injuries and wouldn't have needed to consume the Imperial Palace's pills and wouldn't have to suffer such pain. His slender fingers curled up the towel in his hand one by one. At this moment, the strong and determined man's eyes reddened. Qiao Jin put the towel into the basin and gently held her little hand. Her delicate hand was so small, yet his large palm could completely wrap around her small hand. Qiao Jin held her hand tightly, lifted it gently and pressed it against his cheek. Her hands were bone-chilling just like frost. It was so cold that his body trembled slightly. His heart was aching and filled with guilt. "Xiaoyi." Qiao Jin murmured softly, calling Yan Xiaoyi's name affectionately. Even he himself did not notice it. The tenderness in his words could almost be squeezed out of water. His gaze was tender and tender, his expression gentle. "Xiaoyi, after going through this, I'm increasingly certain of your position in my heart. When you wake up, when you get better, I will definitely tell you everything in my heart." A pained groan interrupted Qiao Jin's murmurs. Qiao Jin, who had been confessing tenderly, paused. Their previous high morale instantly vanished without a trace. The eyelashes of the woman lying on the bed trembled as she twisted her body in pain. His breathing became heavier and heavier, as if he was suffering from indescribable pain. Qiao Jin held her hand tightly and pressed it against his face. He covered her eyes with his other hand. "Xiaoyi, I'm here. I'm here." In his palm, he could clearly feel the movement of his eyelashes. Qiao Jin's heart trembled, and he immediately withdrew his hand. Sure enough, he saw a pair of beautiful eyes that were covered with a layer of haziness. She blinked her eyes in a daze, her face scrunched up in pain. Until Yan Xiaoyi's eyes completely opened, and a pair of hazily beautiful eyes looked towards him. Xiao Jin's entire body stiffened. He was still holding Yan Xiaoyi's hand and placing it against his cheek. Chapter 1273. Yan Xiaoyi's gaze was fixated on Xiao Jin. She didn't speak. He became increasingly nervous. After a while, Xiao Jin stood up in a panic. I just felt that your hand was very cold, so, he stuttered as he explained, his face full of nervousness. He had just vowed that as long as Yan Xiaoyi woke up, he would tell her about his feelings. At this moment, those words had long been forgotten because of his nervousness when facing Yan Xiaoyi. His stuttering explanation was stopped when Yan Xiaoyi slowly sat up. Xiao Jin pressed Yan Xiaoyi down in a panic. You can't move around recklessly now. Before the doctor comes, lie down and rest. As soon as he finished speaking, Yan Xiaoyi's body actually fell towards him softly. Then, without warning, she stretched out her hands and wrapped them around his firm waist. That pale little face was pressed against his abdomen. Xiao Jin could clearly feel Yan Xiaoyi's icy cold face through the thin layer of clothing. Xiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi's pale thin lips opened slightly as she softly called out his name. Because of this action, the wounds on his body were affected, causing a tearing pain. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes reddened, her little hands wrapped even tighter as her voice revealed a trace of grievance. Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin was stunned. She wasn't angry at him for holding her hand without permission? And she even took the initiative to wrap her arms around his waist? Xiao Jin's heart beat wildly, his entire body inexplicably hot. He looked at the young girl who was hugging him, his body stiff, his arms trembling as he reached towards her. He wanted to wrap his arms around Yan Xiaoyi, but he was afraid of being rejected by Yan Xiaoyi. Don't tell me, you hate me that much? Yan Xiaoyi suddenly raised her head, her misty eyes looking at him. Her beautiful eyes were slightly red, revealing a thin layer of mist. Xiao Jin's heart stopped, he subconsciously reached out to hold her face, gently caressing her eyes. How could I hate you, Xiaoyi? How could I hate you? I can't wait to like you, how could I hate you? Don't cry, if you cry my heart will ache. Xiao Jin silently added another sentence in his heart. His slender fingers gently caressed Yan Xiaoyi's eyes. Yan Xiaoyi's little hands tightened around his waist, seemingly enjoying Xiao Jin's touch. She slowly closed her eyes, and the pain between her brows eased a little. He waited for a long time, but he didn't feel the sensation he was expecting. Yan Xiaoyi opened her eyes in confusion. She saw Xiao Jin staring at her, not knowing what he was thinking. Yan Xiaoyi blinked her eyes in a daze, her soft body lying on top of his. The woman's soft and delicate body, especially the softness in front of her chest, was pressed tightly against his chest. Xiao Jin was hot-blooded, and the one in his arms was the woman he loved. His body tensed up and he reached out to pry Yan Xiaoyi's hand away. Ugh, it hurts. Yan Xiaoyi refused to let go. She didn't know why, but every time her body moved, she would feel a dull pain. It was as if his internal organs had been torn apart. Why could he still feel such clear pain in his dream? However, she still endured the pain and only wanted to hug Xiao Jin tightly. This dream belonged to her alone. Only in her dreams did this man belong to her alone. Only in her dreams could she do whatever she wanted to do to him without any qualms. She wasn't willing to wake up, nor was she willing to let go of him in her dreams. This was her dream. So, she could do anything. As long as she could keep him. Chapter 1274. Hearing Yan Xiaoyi cry out in pain, Xiao Jin immediately panicked. How would he dare to struggle again? Looking at Yan Xiaoyi with a worried gaze, Xiao Jin asked helplessly, "Where does it hurt? Where does it hurt? Bear with it, the doctor will be here soon, I'll rush the doctor over to take a look at you, don't cry." Just as he was about to turn and leave, the two hands around his waist, wrapped around him tightly, unwilling to let go. "Xiaoyi, you." Xiao Jin didn't dare to move too much, worried that it would affect Yan Xiaoyi's wound. Before he could speak, Yan Xiaoyi held his hand. She pulled his large palm and placed it on her chest. "It hurts here, it hurts." "Xiao Jin, what do I do? I'm about to die from the pain." Xiao Jin's mind went blank. It was as if a ball of white light exploded in his mind. What did his hand touch? It was as soft as cotton. It was so soft that he subconsciously wanted to move his fingers. And once he moved, he heard a soft moan. It was alluring. His consciousness suddenly came back to his senses. His eyes fixed on Yan Xiaoyi's body. His hand was still on Yan Xiaoyi's chest. His fingers were bent. It was obvious that he really rubbed Xiao sorry? Xiao Jin's face instantly flushed red. He wanted to retract his hand, but Yan Xiaoyi seemed to know what he wanted to do, and stopped him in advance. With this pull and pull, the feeling in his palm became increasingly clear. Xiao Jin's body was extremely tense, the emotions in his eyes, constantly attacking his lower abdomen. His eyes were already filled with a trace of desire. No, it can't be like this. Xiao Yi's injury was so serious, how could he have such thoughts towards Xiao Yi at this time? Xiao Jin constantly convinced himself. His arms slightly exerted force, wanting to maintain a distance from Yan Xiaoyi. But Yan Xiaoyi was very strong. Under the pull, Yan Xiaoyi's body was already weak, her body fell forward, about to fall off the bed. Xiao Jin caught Yan Xiaoyi in time, the two of them fell to the ground. Xiao Jin acted as a cushion so Yan Xiaoyi didn't fall. But the position of the two was a little too ambiguous. Xiao Jin also realized this and shifted his gaze away unnaturally. Xiaoyi, can you move? Yan Xiaoyi leaned against his chest. Her slightly red face was no longer as cold as before. She replied softly, her little hands subconsciously grabbing onto his shirt. Get up first. Xiao Jin's tensed body had already reached its limit. The most torturous thing in the world. Nothing was better than being intimate with the woman he loved, but he couldn't and didn't dare to do anything. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly raised her eyes and looked deeply at Xiao Jin. Her hands changed from gripping his clothes to gently caressing it. His fingers were like elves moving through a layer of clothing. A trace of a smile blossomed on her lips. Didn't you forcefully press me against the table the last time? Forcefully kissed me? You still want to take off my clothes? Xiao Jin's body stiffened and his breathing became heavy. What, you don't have the guts now? Yan Xiaoyi suddenly bent down and pressed her fingers on Xiao Jin's lips. Only you are allowed to forcefully push me, but I'm not allowed to forcefully push you? Just as her voice fell, her lips had already forcefully pressed on his, forcefully biting and caressing. She imitated how he had kissed her the last time and returned the kiss to Xiao Jin without changing anything. Xiao Jin's voice was already hoarse. There was a voice in his head that kept shouting for him to press down this unbridled woman on top of him. Somewhere in his body, it kept clamoring for action. But he maintained his rationality. Calm down. Calm down. Xiao Yi's actions must be because the injuries on her body had worsened, causing her to lose consciousness. He couldn't take advantage of her. But this thought just flashed past his mind. Chapter 1275. Yan Xiaoyi's slender and fair little hands were as soft as silk. They bounced on Xiao Jin's chest. Slowly it slid into his clothes. Her delicate skin came into contact with him without any resistance. Xiao Jin's tense nerves broke down at this moment. His eyes, which were filled with yearning, were bloodshot, burning with the flames of lust. Xiaoyi. His hoarse voice revealed an irrepressible lust. Xiao Jin reached out and hugged the girl who was lying on him. You asked for it. He was a man. He was young and full of vigor. How could he control himself under the seduction of the girl he loved? If he could control himself, then he wasn't a man. Xiao Jin's fierce and unreasonable look didn't make Yan Xiaoyi afraid at all. Instead, she giggled out loud. Because of her discomfort, her frowning brows relaxed at this moment. If you dare to stop, then you aren't a man. Yan Xiaoyi grabbed his clothes tightly and pulled hard. After pulling Xiao Jin down, she kissed his thin lips fiercely. In this dream, she wanted to truly feel Xiao Jin's taste, Xiao Jin's temperature, Xiao Jin's everything. In this dream, Xiao Jin belonged to her alone. Yan Xiaoyi's kiss became more and more lingering. Xiao Jin turned from guest to host, biting Yan Xiaoyi's lips. The intense kiss raised the temperature of the whole room. The two of them were already entangled. At this moment, Brat, is Xiaoyi okay? I've brought the ghost doctor over. Let's take a look at Xiaoyi and see what's going on. The door was pushed open rudely. God Thief tugged on the ghost doctor's sleeve and swaggered in. Peach, Long Yunzhan, and Zhao Bo followed behind. Immediately there was a moment of silence. The few of them looked at everything that was happening in the room in shock, smelling the extremely ambiguous smell in the air. Both parties froze. Xiao Jin was originally full of lust. Now that he was shocked and being watched, he was so scared that he went soft. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Damn, would he have a shadow in his heart in the future? Would he be able to get better in the future? Damn. He wouldn't be impotent, right? Cough, cough, cough. Holy Pirate, who was the first to react, blushed. He immediately dragged the ghost doctor away. When Long Yunzhan, Zhao Bo, and the others came to their senses, They reached out to cover Peach's eyes and forcibly took her away. The door slammed shut again with a bang. Outside the door, the ghost doctor's voice could be heard. "If you don't want Miss Yan's injuries to worsen, you'd better stop now. Otherwise, even I, the ghost doctor, will be powerless." "You're such an unromantic old man. The young couple is so loving inside and you have to say such things that spoil the mood." Holy Pirate spat a few times as if he was pulling the ghost doctor away. When Xiao Jin, who was in the room, heard the ghost doctor's words, all his feelings completely vanished into thin air. Chapter 1276. While the ghost doctor was taking Yin Xiaoyi's pulse, Long Yunzhan succinctly recounted what had happened in West Lawn Square. After hearing that all the students in the devil class had been surrounded by the dark forces, which was why they were so heavily injured, the ghost doctor and God Pirate's eyes met, and a haze flashed across their eyes. He was already heavily injured to begin with, and he even consumed the spirit-returning pill specially made by the Imperial Palace. If it was an ordinary profound practitioner, once the effects of the spirit-returning pill were used up, he would either die or be crippled. Ghost Doctor's white brows creased as he impatiently flung Yin Xiaoyi's wrist away. "Luckily you've been nourished by last Qing Luo's medicinal pill, and your body's quality has far surpassed ordinary people, so you're able to withstand the backlash from the spirit-returning pill." The more he spoke, the more impatient his expression became. "You're just a bunch of kids who haven't even grown hair yet. Why do you have to provoke this kind of thing? Troublesome." If it wasn't for the fact that these youngsters had a close relationship with Yi Qing Luo, the ghost doctor really wasn't willing to waste her time refining medicine to treat these troublesome brats. "So it's the soul-restoring pill. No wonder I can't see any injuries on these kids, but they're all howling like pigs being slaughtered." Holy Pirate suddenly understood and looked at Ghost Doctor. This group of kids are like newborn calves that are not afraid of tigers. They even dare to take elixirs like the Return God pill. Most profound practitioners did not dare to experience the consequences of consuming the soul-returning pill. In the case of severe injuries after consuming the soul-returning pellet, the wounds on the profound practitioner's body would heal on their own. After the effects of the medicine dissipated, the wounds on the body would not reappear. However, the wounds still had an effect on the body. Not only did profound practitioners have to endure pain that was 100 times more painful than when they were heavily injured, they also had to. He couldn't find the exact location of the wound on his body or what kind of injury it was. But there was no way to save him. Ghost Doctor. Xiao Jin stood stiffly by the bedside, his gaze deeply fixed on Yin Xiaoyi, whose face was filled with pain. "Is there no other way?" The moment he opened his mouth, the ghost doctor glared at him maliciously. "You brat, you still dare to speak. You clearly knew that this girl's injuries were severe, yet you still did that kind of thing to her. If we hadn't come early, this girl's life would have been in your hands." How troublesome. All he did was create trouble for him. Xiao Jin was unable to refute and lowered his eyes in guilt. "All right. Call that bunch of quacks over and first tell them how to find the location of the wound." The ghost doctor couldn't be bothered to say anything else. She just wanted to resolve this troublesome matter as soon as possible. In his heart, he was already thinking that when Yi Qing Luo returned, he would definitely make her repay the kindness. Locking Yi Qing Luo in the secret alchemy room for 10 days to half a month to help him refine medicinal pills. Quack doctor? Zhao Bo swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Those doctors were the most prestigious doctors in and outside of Three Springs City, and within a radius of hundreds of miles. In the mouth of the ghost doctor, all of them had become quacks? Long Yunzhan's cold gaze swept past Zhao Bo. Zhao Bo shuddered and reacted. "I'll call them over now." West Lawn Square, dormitory. Night approached the hour of Yi Qing Luo's eyes were shut as she fell into dreamland. Even in her dreams, her brows were still tightly knitted. It was as if he couldn't calm down. Suddenly, a well-defined finger gently touched her tightly knitted eyebrows. A strong arm wrapped around the sleeping girl. The purple robe fluttered under the dim candlelight. The fluorescent glow was harmonious. "Xian, stop fooling around." The young lady pouted her pink lips as she raised her hand to push away the arm which was restraining her waist, turning over and continuing to sleep. In the next instant, a pair of warm lips had already sealed her lips. The elegant sandalwood scent, mixed with the scent of male hormones. Chapter 1277. Yi Qing Luo moaned twice as both her hands pushed against Dmo Xian's chest. But her struggle made Dmo Xian even more overbearing. In just a short while he made her throw away her armor. She opened her eyes in a daze as she gazed into that pair of tender and sweet peach blossom eyes. Her hands automatically wrapped around his neck as she pressed her lips tightly against his as she murmured, "Ah Xian." Just as she relaxed her body and closed her eyes to enjoy the intimacy with Dmo Xian, the man who was leaning on her had already moved his body away. The man's scorching temperature suddenly disappeared. His large palm moved her wrists away from his neck. Yiqing Luo frowned in puzzlement. Was the Emperor Bird the kind of person who would give up on conquering her when she took the initiative? It was obviously the kind of person who could turn the tables and forcefully suppress her. At this critical juncture, the Emperor Bird actually took the initiative to stop. Cough. This could be a fake Dmo Xian? Get up and wash up. The deep male voice made her mellow for a moment. Yiqing Luo lazily turned over and laid on the pillow, ignoring him. She was extremely dissatisfied with Dmo Xian's sudden stop. "Bei Yuan is waiting for you, aren't you going to get up?" Dmo Xian's thin lips curled as his body leaned down once again. "Or, do you want me to continue?" The man's warm breath sprayed on the skin on the back of her neck. His large palm slowly covered her back. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled as her cheeks turned slightly red. Just as she was about to avoid Dmo Xian's touch, his hand suddenly pressed on her waist. That faintly discernible teasing made Yiqing Luo's face flushed red like a raging fire, burning hot. Her brain heated up as she simply turned over and grabbed Dmo Xian's deliberately teasing hand as she gritted her teeth and spat out a word, "Continue if you have the ability." The man who was looking at her from a close distance suddenly froze. That originally playful smile on his face instantly turned gloomy. Yiqing Luo raised her brows in provocation as she flung Dmo Xian's hand to one side. Just as she was about to proudly get up, her shoulder sank and she fell onto the bed once again. Then his scalding hot body pressed down. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened in astonishment, and before she could even say a word, she was fiercely kissed by Dmo Xian. This kiss was different from the past. Instead, it was a fierce, aggressive kiss. It was as if he was really moved by Guyu and his feelings were aroused. Yiqing Luo was so shocked that she pushed Dmo Xian's chest. She was still on her period. Dmo Xian wouldn't be that beastly, forcefully pushing her during her menstrual period, right? However, to Dmo Xian, her struggles were merely tickling. His hand followed her body straight down. It slid between her breasts. Yiqing Luo struggled even more fiercely. Without saying a word, Dmo Xian's fingers swept over the inside of her twin crescent breasts and pressed down hard. Oh! Yiqing Luo's body shuddered violently as her breathing stopped momentarily. Her blushing face was now flushed red as if it was on fire. He's a heartless beast. He actually used his hands to press down on her. Lil Luo, don't try to provoke a man's self-control. Dmo Xian's low and hoarse voice revealed his deep feelings. There's still 5 more days. I will continue until you cry and beg for mercy. His lips brushed past her earlobe. It made Yiqing Luo's petite body shudder continuously. Yiqing Luo's mind went blank. Even when the man flipped over and got down from her body, she still hadn't noticed it. Looking at the completely dazed young lady, Dmo Xian smiled helplessly. Chapter 1278. This last usually only dared to show off with her mouth. But if he really touched her, she would be more shy than anyone else. It's better to call me Qing Luo. Curled into a smile. We haven't even taken a step yet. Increasingly gentle. It's still too early to call me mistress. He bent over and stretched out his hand to embrace the young lady who was close to her ear and said with a smile. His other hand went around to the wooden frame and pulled Yiqing Luo's uniform down. Yet? So his hands never thought of Mary and helped her put on her clothes. Yiqing Luo blushed. His movements were neat on her waist. Skillful. I didn't mean it only a moment for him to tie Yiqing Luo's clothes. Still, during the period of Yiqing Luo's training, Dmo Xian raised his brows not only helped her wash in front of her secretly. His smile widened. He would also gently help her put on her clothes. He was simply perverse to the extreme. In order to let her sleep a little longer. He actually intentionally tricked her into saying the country's best husband. No matter if it's early or not, it was until the last straps were tied up that Yiqing Luo regained her senses in a daze. So you're the Imperial Palace's mistress. Her flustered and shy gaze met Dmo Xian's eyes and her cheeks blushed again. Past her eyes. It's almost time. If you're not ready, you'll miss today's good opportunity and have to wait until tomorrow night. Dmo Xian had a fiancé, and it was the kind of fiancé that she loved deeply. Go wash up. Why would she show such an expression? The second bell rang in the afternoon. It was the best time to extract the heartbone and heart blood. Dong, she wanted to repair the broken glower flame fan and combine her heartbone with the glower flame fan. Luo's arm thinking of the glower flame the array, The flush on Yi Qingluo's face gradually faded. I still need to rush back to the palace. The two of them hurried to meet up with Tang Beiyuan closely behind. When Yi Qingluo arrived at the destination, she was stunned. Tang Beiyuan walked to the tunnel where Yi Feng. It might be a little painful to extract your heart when he was kidnapped. After it's extracted, the conflict, your body will take a long time to recover. The entire broken temple and tunnel had become a pile of ruins. Nodded. Because of this, there were very few people here. The Overlord will generally one might not even see a person pass by this place for 10 days to half a month. The Overlord will not choosing this place to extract the heart bone was the safest. You just need to remember, in the ruins of the heart bone, an empty space of about 2 meters wide had been cleared. Tang Beiyuan's voice turned around. A pair of beautiful eyes. There was a sense of deja vu, solemnly, as if preparing to exorcise the spirits. Not allowed to have any weakness. Under the night sky are the Overlord's aqua-colored dress. I don't wish for any accidents to happen to the Overlord because of you. She gazed at the bright moon in the sky. Her gaze focused and brows creased slightly. No one knew what she was thinking. He swept a cold glance at Tang Beiyuan. His entire person inexplicably showed a sense of loneliness. Yi Qingluo hurriedly. She had an extremely simple and exquisite hairstyle. Miss Tang is right. I will take note. She had bright eyes and white teeth. Tang Beiyuan said this to her because she had identified Yi Qingluo as the mistress of the Imperial. She was like a goddess under the moonlight, and also because she was sincerely worried about Gentle Xian's safety. Tang Beiyuan's current ability was indeed not enough to make the people in the Imperial Palace feel assured. A faint smile. Nirvana realm worshipped Diemo Xian as a god, but there were thousands of people who wanted to pull him down from the altar. She was Diemo Xian's weakness, which meant those who wanted to pull Diemo Xian down from the altar, as long as they laid their hands on her, Diemo Xian would definitely be controlled. This was also the reason why Ah Feng hated her so much from the start. She could not become Diemo Xian's burden. She could not drag Diemo Xian down. Yi Qingluo's charming eyes sparkled with a resolute glow. She looked at Tang Beiyuan and confidently smiled, word by word as though she was making an oath. Don't worry, whatever you are worried about, I will try my best not to let it happen. It was the same as what Tang Beiyuan had said when they first met, when she thought that Tang Beiyuan was the second Feng Ling. He returned it to her untouched. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. The second bell rang. The three of them did not waste any more time. According to Diemo Xian's request, Yi Qingluo sat cross-legged. He began to extract the heart bone and blood. 3 Spring City, the World Mercenary Group's old residence. After several hours of treatment, the wounds on the youth's bodies were finally bandaged. However, if they wanted to fully recover, they would probably have to lie in bed for half a month. Half a month was neither a long time nor a short time. Chapter 1280. Ha! The ghost doctor sneered. Holy Pirate's smile did not diminish. Old doctor, to thank you for your hard work, I will personally send you back to the academy today. *CK off. Ghost doctor's mouth twitched a few times. He did not look happy at Holy Pirate's gesture of goodwill. Holy Pirate was still smiling as he followed behind him. So many years had passed. The ghost doctor was still the same as before, stubborn on the outside but soft on the inside. Long Yunzhan, Xiao Jin, and the rest comforted the injured youths one by one, letting them rest well. The two of them came out of the room and walked down the quiet corridor. The entire journey was silent. After a while, Long Yunzhan's cold voice broke the silence. Are you serious about Xiao Yi? Long Yunzhan was not a sensitive person. He was completely unaware of the relationship between Xiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi. If he hadn't seen that scene with his own eyes today, he reckoned that Xiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi were merely companions. Xiao Jin's footsteps paused. That delicate and pretty face appeared in his mind. His eyes softened as he replied softly, yes. That's a straightforward answer. Long Yunzhan gave him a sidelong glance. What's Xiao Yi's attitude? Xiao Jin recalled the past few times when he forcefully kissed Yan Xiao Yi, only to be slapped by her. His heart sank. I don't know. You still haven't told her? Long Yunzhan frowned. They were already so intimate, but they still hadn't admitted their relationship? Xiao Jin lowered his eyes, speechless. I understand how you feel. Long Yunzhan looked at him deeply, and a helpless smile flashed across his azure blue eyes. I want to say it but I can't. Facing the woman he loved, he would be nervous. He was so nervous that his mind went blank, and he was unable to accurately express the feelings in his heart. Furthermore, if he told her, they might not even be friends anymore. In order to stay by her side as a friend, Xiao Jin did not dare to say it. But he couldn't say it. But, you and I are different. Long Yunzhan patted his shoulder lightly. If you really like her, then tell her your feelings as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will be too late. Xiao Jin nodded silently, countless thoughts surging in his mind. The two of them fell into silence again. When they reached the end of the corridor, the two were about to part ways. Suddenly, a flame flashed before his eyes. The sky was filled with flames, covering the sky and covering the earth as they swept over. One by one, the burning torches fell from the sky. In an instant, all the flammable items in the mansion were set ablaze. The expressions of the two immediately changed. "I will go and take a look at the situation. You, Xiaobo, and the rest, quickly bring the brothers away." Long Yunzhan hurriedly instructed before immediately flying in the direction where the fire had come from. Qiao Jin took out the world group's medal from his bosom and said, "Brothers, gather at the backyard immediately and carry the injured brothers out." By the time Qiao Jin rushed back to the backyard, Zhao Bo and the 20 over people were already waiting for him there. "Executive Commander, why did it suddenly catch fire? Where did this fire come from?" Zhao Bo asked Qiao Jin as he arranged for the other brothers to carry the injured youths out. Qiao Jin's brows furrowed tightly as he shook his head. "Zhan has gone to hunt down the culprit behind the fire. Let's carry our brothers out first. The fire is burning really fiercely. I'm afraid it's going to reach the backyard soon." At this critical moment, the few of them did not dare to be negligent. The fire was getting fiercer and fiercer. Just as the few of them dashed into the room and were about to carry the youths out. In the courtyard where the fire was flickering, batch after batch of people dressed in black robes suddenly appeared. "I wonder how Zhan is doing. Yo, isn't this the other students from the devil class? Why are all of you bandaged like this?" Yi Qingqian didn't care whether those people responded to her or not as she covered her mouth and pointed at the youngsters behind Qiao Jin in shock. A pair of evil and cold eyes curved as he smiled. "Oh, look at my memory. I forgot that the day before your match, the dark forces happened to pass by the mountain behind your square. We happened to attack them and gave them some pointers." Qiao Jin's tensed body suddenly trembled. His ordinary-looking face immediately revealed a thick anger. Yi Qingqian looked at his reaction and smiled satisfactorily. "I'm rather impressed with you guys to have received our pointers, and still have the ability to compete on the second day." That day she knew very well how ruthless the Dark Coalition was. They were just short of killing these people on the spot. Not killing them was just to make Yi Qing Luo lose all her face. To make the devil class which Yi Qing Luo led to become cowards who didn't dare to take part in the competition and automatically withdrew from the competition. Chapter 1282. But not only did Yi Qing Luo not follow the plan, because all the devil class students were heavily injured and unable to take part in the competition. Instead she led these devil class students who didn't seem to be injured had won this year's competition's champion. As Yi Qingqian thought about it, her eyes gradually shrouded with a layer of viciousness. "The person who attacked us at the back of the mountain, is you?" A chilly voice was heard from behind Yi Qingqian. She saw a blue-robed Long Yunzhan holding a blue long sword as he charged towards Yi Qingqian's direction. His eyes were cold as he had no emotions on his face. The long sword in his hand flashed a cold blue ray and in the midst of the flames, it drew out a blue light after image. Boom boom boom, the sword ray was valiant as it struck the crowd of dark forces. Instantly, a huge deep pit exploded on the ground. However, that sinister smile on Yi Qingqian's lips had already swiftly pulled a distance away the moment Long Yunzhan appeared. A huge explosion was heard as the entire old mansion shook non-stop. That blazing flame had also burnt down everything in the courtyard. Earth Profound 8th grade? Devil class monitor is indeed not to be belittled. Yi Qingqian's brows rose as she looked at the domineering man standing in front of Qiao Jin and the rest in ridicule. Earth Profound 8th grade? Zhao Bo and the rest looked at Long Yunzhan in shock. Other than Qiao Jin and the rest, the other students probably didn't know Long Yunzhan's true profound grade. They only knew that Long Yunzhan was very powerful. But they had not expected that. Long Yunzhan was already an Earth Profound 8th grade advanced cultivator. But while they were shocked, Yi Qingqian didn't show any signs of fear. What's more, there wasn't even a hint of flustered expression. As though an Earth Profound 8th grade cultivator in her eyes was just an ant. Zhao Bo and the rest's hearts sunk as they looked at Yi Qingqian warily. They were secretly speculating on what profound grade Yi Qingqian who had cooperated with the Dark Forces and even got a protector title in the Dark Forces. Long Yunzhan stood expressionlessly in front of everyone as he slowly raised his long sword and pointed it towards Yi Qingqian. His icy cold voice seemed to be wrapped in frost. "Those who hurt the world group must be killed." His words had just ended and his figure turned into a flowing light as he charged towards those 200 over people. At the same time, Long Yunzhan's voice came from the world group badge. "There's a secret passage in my room, bring the other brothers and leave immediately." The light sword flashed. The blue light whistled and the sword radiance surged. The entire courtyard was instantly stirred up by the terrifying profound chi, causing the ground to be filled with rubble and dust. Boom! There was another loud explosion. The long sword sank into the ground. From the moment the blue long sword plunged into the ground, a thin line that looked like a spider's web split open densely. The ground shook, and the surrounding trees and gravel were all cut down by the sword radiance. Yi Qingqian was originally complacent as she was filled with disdain towards Long Yunzhan. One after another, the sword gleams came down and Yi Qingqian's expression instantly turned steely green. "Go. Charge. Kill everyone in the light devil class, don't leave a single one alive." Yi Qingqian's voice was sharp as she hurriedly commanded. Smoke and dust filled the air, and they couldn't see anything around them. Due to Long Yunzhan's terrifying aura, the ground shook and the mountains swayed, making it hard to even stand. Momentarily, those people from the dark forces turned into a chaotic mess. Whereas on the other side, Zhao Bo swiftly called out to the remaining brothers as they carried the injured students one by one, sending them to Long Yunzhan's room. "Don't even think of escaping." Yi Qingqian realized Long Yunzhan's motive as a burst of profound yin qi rose from her palm. Chapter 1283. The profound yin qi in just a moment swallowed all the sword radiance which Long Yunzhan had released. Yi Qingqian's arms opened up and with an elegant posture, she landed steadily among the black-robed men. Her eyes were filled with an eerie chill as she gave a cold harumph. "The World Group's leader, an earth-profound 8th-grade cultivator, are you really willing to submit to a slut's skirt?" Long Yunzhan didn't say a word. He had no intention to converse with Yi Qingqian. The next sword radiance was released once again. The blue long sword and the sword chi's oppressive grandeur once again enveloped the entire area. The horrifying sword radiance exploded with a huge amount of profound energy. Yi Qingqian swiftly retaliated. Qiao Jin looked at those 200 over people, taking the opportunity to stop Zhao Bo and the rest from assassinating the injured youngsters as the gold coin darts in his hands flew out and joined the battle. Momentarily, the entire old mansion was in turmoil. But, after all, there was a huge disparity in their abilities, and with the disadvantage in numbers, they still had to protect the other students. In just half an instant's time, Long Yunzhan and the rest were forced to retreat to the direction of the bedroom in the backyard. "Be careful. Guard the bedroom." Qiao Jin was at the front line, entangling with 10 over dark forces. From the corner of his eyes, he saw 10 over people from the dark forces, quietly getting close to those bedroom. His expression sunk as he shouted out sharply. In the bedroom there were still many brothers who had not been moved in time. Most of the brothers had fallen into a deep sleep under Ghost Doctor's treatment. If the dark forces were to get close, they wouldn't be able to resist at all. But, at this moment, even Zhao Bo and the rest had been restrained by the other dark forces. There was no one who could stop the people who had snuck into the bedroom. The leader of the black-robed men walked into the bedroom and saw a young man who was lying on the bed with his eyes closed resting. The smile on his face was filled with excitement and viciousness. As long as they slaughtered the World Group, this bunch of brats, and took their heads, they would have the chance to become the high and mighty guardians. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly as he raised the weapon in his hand, chopping down towards the neck of the sleeping young man. Ah! A miserable shriek was heard. The weapon in that black-robed man's hand was kicked away, shooting out a silver ray in midair. Ah! Another scream rang out. The weapon fell from the sky and happened to stab the stomach of the black-robed man. The other black-robed men took a closer look. An old man in a white robe was standing in front of the young man's bed. The old man's face was gloomy and he looked extremely impatient. The dark forces are getting bolder and bolder. The old man narrowed his eyes as he looked at the black-robed men in front of him. The black-robed men looked at each other. They clearly felt that this old man was not someone easy to deal with. Immediately he turned around and tried to escape. As he turned around, the eyes of the black-robed men were blinded by a flash of golden light. After getting used to the golden light, Zhang Xian saw an old man dressed in a golden robe, looking like a nouveau riche, standing at the entrance of the room. "Old doctor, I'm done on my side. Why haven't you started?" Holy Pirate rushed into the room. Without a word, he grabbed a man in a black robe and punched him in the stomach. With a casual toss, he grabbed the second person. In just a moment, the few black-robed men lost all signs of life. Ghost Doctor looked back at the young man who was still in deep sleep and frowned impatiently. The dark forces are actually so rampant to such an extent. Looks like this matter needs to be reported to the higher-ups as soon as possible. Chapter 1284. God Thief and Ghost Doctor walked out of the room and sensed a burst of strong, profound energy fluctuation. Their expressions congealed as they speedily moved towards the direction of the fluctuation. Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin were already covered with injuries as they retreated step by step, whereas in front of the two of them were rows after rows of men dressed in brown warrior robes. Their dressing was extremely simple, and the most eye-catching thing was on their arms, embroidered with an extremely conspicuous emperor word. That was Imperial Palace's disciples. Imperial Palace's disciples. Any one of them had a pivotal position in the pugilistic world. Any random one of them would be a mystic profound grade 5 and above. Whereas this group of around 30 over Imperial Palace's disciples, the lowest profound grade was mystic profound grade 9, while the highest had already reached earth profound grade 6. Overlord, that fellow seems to be interested in that last Qing Luo. Holy Thief clicked his tongue. His heart that was hanging in the air finally calmed down. These Imperial Palace's disciples must be selected from the Imperial Palace's upper-class disciples. Sending out 30 over upper-class disciples, just to protect these people whom Yiqing Luo cared about. To DMO Xian, if it wasn't because he really cared, if he wasn't really interested, DMO Xian would absolutely not do such a thing. The Imperial Palace's disciples trained in an orderly manner. After helping Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin to block those attacks, they speedily redistributed their own responsibilities. 20 people stayed behind to continue fighting against the dark forces. As for the remaining 10 over people, they pulled Long Yunzhan and Xiao Jin towards the direction of Zhao Bo and the others. Those 10 over people were extremely agile as they speedily got close to the bedroom and carried the young man who was in deep sleep on their shoulders as they left without turning their heads back. As for those dark forces who tried to sneak into the bedroom to lay their hands on those injured young men, they were immediately exterminated by them. Zhao Bo and the others stared at those Imperial Palace's disciples in a daze. He had mingled in the mercenary group for so many years and naturally understood the meaning of the Emperor word on their sleeves. Imperial Palace, Nirvana Realm's first palace. They had not expected the Imperial Palace's disciples to appear here and help them. Zhao Bo felt that he had followed a good team at this moment. When their mercenary group's management grew up, their mercenary group would definitely become the #1 mercenary group in future. What are you still standing here for? Hurry up and carry the brothers away. Xiao Jin slapped the back of Zhao Bo's head and urged. Zhao Bo repeatedly responded and moved his brothers along with the Imperial Palace's disciples. Xiao Jin glanced in the direction of his brothers who were busy moving things back and forth, then immediately shifted his gaze to the battlefield. 20 over Imperial Palace's disciples, against 100 over people from the dark forces, Yiqing Qian would occasionally harass them. It was indeed a little strenuous. If it wasn't for their perfect coordination, tacit understanding, and absolute strength, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. After dozens of rounds, both sides were in a deadlock. Xiao Jin gripped the coin dart tightly and was about to rush forward to help. However, a large palm pressed down on his shoulder, stopping him in his tracks. Xiao Jin glanced sideways and met with a pair of icy cold azure eyes. Bring Xiao Yi out first, no one has gone to her room yet. Long Yunzhan advised. Xiao Jin's footsteps paused. But, what about that side? The Overlord has specially sent people to protect us. We must not let anything happen to the disciples of the Imperial Palace, otherwise, how are they going to explain this to Di Zun? What face did he have to face Yiqing Luo? Chapter 1285. Then you? Xiao Jin's brows were tightly knitted together. The wounds on Long Yunzhan's body were no less than his. In fact, her injuries were even more serious than his. Otherwise, the Imperial Palace's disciple wouldn't have forcefully dragged them away from the battlefield and indicated that they were only responsible for moving the brothers out of the old mansion. I'm fine. Long Yunzhan shook his head. I know what I'm doing. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and headed towards the battlefield with his blue sword in hand. Xiao Jin stared at Long Yunzhan, who was doing his best to kill in the dark forces. His fists gradually tightened. He pursed his lips and glanced in the direction of Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard. The expression on his face didn't change, as if he was hesitating about something. After a long while, Xiao Jin finally took a deep breath, gripped the coin darts tightly, and walked towards the direction of the battlefield. Kid, you'd better be a good boy and move the injured children. Leave this place to me and the old doctor. Holy Pirate came from behind and pressed down on Xiao Jin's shoulder. Xiao Jin was stunned. He turned his head to look at the two people behind him. God Thief, Ghost Doctor, you guys, didn't they leave? Alright, stop talking nonsense. The Ghost Doctor frowned impatiently. He turned around and entered the battlefield. Holy Pirate patted Xiao Jin's shoulder and chased after Ghost Doctor. With the addition of Holy Thief and the Ghost Doctor, the situation of the battle instantly became balanced. Seeing that they had gained the upper hand in the battle, Yi Qingqian was flustered and exasperated as she commanded the black-robed men who were still alive to attack. Xiao Jin didn't continue to be entangled as he headed towards Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard. This old mansion was bought by Yan Xiaoyi, excluding the devil-class students and Zhao Bo and the rest. Yi Qing Luo, Long Yunzhan and the others all had their own independent courtyards. Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard was in the corner of the backyard. Xiao Jin quickly walked towards Yan Xiaoyi's courtyard and the expression on his face instantly changed. Originally he was feeling complicated and apprehensive. He was still thinking about how to face the awkwardness and ambiguity between the two of them not long ago when he saw Yan Xiaoyi. At this moment, a strong feeling of unease and fear emerged. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's voice was hoarse and trembling. He ignored the pain from the wounds on his body and quickly ran towards Yan Xiaoyi's bedroom. The door to Yan Xiaoyi's bedroom was wide open and there was a pool of blood on the floor. It was obvious that there was a lot of noise coming from inside. The people from the dark forces? They even sent people to search the independent courtyard. Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's eyes were bloodshot. His fingers were tightly gripping the leopard, cutting his skin, but he didn't care. And the scene after rushing into the bedroom. This caused the blood on Xiao Jin's face to instantly disappear. His mind went blank as if something had exploded in his mind. There were 5 black-robed men standing in the bedroom. There were 2 people lying on the ground. Blood flowed from the 2 men's bodies. Xiang Xiaoyi's bandages had long since fallen apart. She stood in the corner, holding a scythe that shone with blue light and looked like a crescent moon. Such a petite person was drenched in blood. Her hair, which looked like seaweed, was stuck to her face by her cold sweat. She gasped for air and leaned against the wall. Her body swayed and she could not stand steadily. But she still stubbornly refused to fall down. Xiaoyi. Xiao Jin's voice was trembling as he called out Yan Xiaoyi's name. That pair of bloodshot eyes was once again enveloped by the blood color on Yan Xiaoyi. The bewitching red color started to spread bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. Murderous intent shot out. 4 hours had passed since the heart bone was dug out. The process of repairing the glowing flame fan continued. For some unknown reason, a sense of panic and uneasiness welled up in his heart. He had a feeling that something was about to happen. But she couldn't explain in detail what kind of feeling it was. What's the matter? Diamo Xian acutely sensed the uneasiness of the young lady in his arms as he inquired in a low voice. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and fell into his peach blossom eyes which seemed to bear thousands of pampering. The uneasiness in his heart was diluted by this gentleness. She smiled and shook her head. After repairing it for so long, I am a little worried that there might be other problems with the glowing flame fan. Chapter 1287. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she buried her face into his chest. I'll wait patiently. How does your body feel? It's been 4 hours, it shouldn't be as painful as before, right? Diamo Xian's slender fingers caressed the back of her head. Extracting the heart bone and blood was extremely harmful to the human body. Even if Diamo Xian had used up almost 20% of his profound energy to alleviate Yiqing Luo's pain, it could only alleviate a little bit of her pain. After all, it was extracting the blood from the heart and the bones from the body. When extracting the heart bone, Yiqing Luo's face turned pale from the pain. But she had been biting her lower lip and didn't make any sound of pain. Diamo Xian's heart ached so much that he couldn't wait to bear it for her. But for Yiqing Luo's future, for her to become stronger. This bit of pain she must bear it. My body is all right. Yiqing Luo responded softly. After a moment of silence, she finally opened her mouth to ask, how long does this kind of pain and discomfort usually last? Her words had just ended when her shoulders were pressed by his large palms. The man's anxious voice floated into her ears. Where do you feel uncomfortable now? Is it still very painful here? His large palm pressed down on her breasts. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she raised her eyes to look at Diamo Xian. Before she could answer, Diamo Xian had already anxiously held her hand and felt her pulse. After extracting the heart bone, it will at most hurt for 1 hour. Do you still feel pain now? Where does it hurt? Don't tell me I'm wrong to extract the heart bone for you? A series of questions, as though he was muttering to himself, came out from his mouth. Looking at Dmo Xian's eyes filled with worry and guilt, Yiqing Luo couldn't say the words that were at the tip of her tongue. After a long time, she curled her pink lips and slowly shook her head. No, I'm just asking casually to see if there's any difference between me and those who have extracted their heart bone. Dmo Xian's hand, which was holding her wrist, loosened as though a heavy burden had been lifted. His fingers once again stroked her hair. If you feel uncomfortable anywhere, you must tell me, do you hear me? It was as if he was admonishing a child, extremely doting and extremely gentle. Yiqing Luo's head, which was buried in his chest, nodded as her eyelids drooped down, concealing the complicated emotions in her eyes. She raised her fair little hand and placed it on her chest without anyone noticing. After extracting her heart bone and heart blood, she had always felt a dull pain as if she was being pricked by needles. Up until now 4 hours had passed. Although she didn't feel as much pain as before, there was still a very strange feeling. Was it an illusion? All right. Mission accomplished. A joyful voice came from the side. Tang Beiyuan wiped the sweat off her forehead and smiled in relief. At least I didn't let you down. The devouring flame fan has been repaired. Yiqing Luo's attention was immediately attracted by the glower flame fan. Yiqing Luo's fingers had just touched the glower flame fan when she suddenly froze. The moment the glowing flame fan touched her fingertips, there seemed to be a kind of the feeling of his soul being shaken. It was as if the glowing flame fan had already fused with her soul. She could clearly sense that the glowing flame fan was transmitting some kind of excitement to her. This was the glowing flame fan which was restored using the heart's blood and heart bone? The glowing flame fan in her palm, the touch and weight was no different from the past. But it was obviously more exquisite. Chapter 1288. For example, there was a dagger hidden in the handle of the fan. Moreover, on every support of the glowing flame fan, there were all kinds of hidden weapons. He had also obtained 10 wintry silver threads. Compared to before, its lethality was much greater, and it was much more convenient to use. Mistress, where did you learn how to design weapons? Too powerful. Can I ask you to help me draw weapons in the future? Tang Beiyuan's eyes sparkled as she looked hopefully at Yiqing Luo. Although it took a lot of effort to repair the glowing flame fan, it was still not enough. But to be able to restore the glower flame fan, and according to Yiqing Luo's request, adding so many bold hidden weapons. He was filled with pride. As a blacksmith, she was well versed in the design of weapons. Yiqing Luo's request. When the glower flame fan was completed, she was shocked. It's my honor to be able to serve the #1 armament master. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she tried out the glower flame fan in her hands. Tang Beiyuan cheered in excitement. At this moment she finally looked like a 17 or 18-year-old girl. We've gotten the weapons, let's hurry back to the old mansion, everyone is still waiting for us there. Yiqing Luo kept the glower flame fan and looked up at Dmo Xian. Under the bright candlelight, Yiqing Luo's pale face was reflected. Dmo Xian frowned. Let's rest for the night and continue our journey tomorrow. You've just extracted your heart bone. Even if you want to recover quickly, you'll need to rest for 5 or 6 days. I'm fine. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her little hand grabbed his lapel as she laughed lightly. Aren't you still by my side? Those children have taken the soul-restoring pill, so they must be in extreme pain right now. At least at this time, I want to be by their side. When she mentioned those brothers in the world group, Yiqing Luo's expression became extremely gentle. There was a hint of gentleness in her eyes. Don't they always say that I'm their hope? I think they wouldn't feel so bad if I were there. If it wasn't for the glowing flame fan, she would have rushed back to the old mansion after the competition to check on the injuries of the youths. Now that the gourd flame fan had been repaired, she was not willing to stay in the West Lawn Plaza for even a moment longer. You. Dmo Xian sighed softly as he shook his head helplessly. This was also why he was more and more attracted to Lil Luo. He seemed cold and heartless and his methods were ruthless. At such a young age he wouldn't even bat an eyelid when killing someone. But she cherished the people she cared about and the people she wanted to protect with all her heart. All right, I'll accompany you back. Dmo Xian placed his palm on Yiqing Luo's head. Lord Overlord. Tang Beiyuan's expression congealed as she hurriedly called out to Dmo Xian. Chapter 1289. Dmo Xian's eyelids drooped down as his peach blossom eyes reflected her face. His lips curled upwards and everything in the world seemed to have lost its color. Yiqing Luo's breathing stopped as her heartbeat sped up. He leaned over and pressed his lips against her ear. His deep magnetic voice lingered beside her ear. No matter how important the Imperial Palace's matters are, it's not as important as you. Just a few simple words, but it seemed to be something that touched Yiqing Luo's heart fiercely. Her cheeks were flushed red. The arms around his neck also tightened at this moment. Her blushing face was plastered on his shoulder as she spoke in a low and extremely soft voice. Ah Xian, I like you. She wanted to tell this feeling to DMO Xian. This man had always placed her in the most important position in his heart. To her, DMO Xian was also the most important person to her. She liked DMO Xian. Very much, very much. The man who was hugging her stiffened as though he was stunned by Yiqing Luo's sudden confession. That long eyelashes fluttered unnaturally. His fair skin was obviously tainted with a touch of redness. Yiqing Luo seemed to have discovered a new continent as her eyes widened as she started giggling. Ah Xian, are you shy? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved as she smiled. She didn't expect her confession to be able to see such an expression from DMO Xian. As the head of a formidable hidden family in the 21st century. Every time she was teased by DMO Xian until her face turned red, hovering between life and death. This was the first time she saw DMO Xian's shy look. Decided in the future when there's nothing to do, she would say some sweet nothings. At the very least, he had to return the favor to her for flirting with him. How could she be the only one who was shy? Shut up. DMO Xian turned his face away as he forcefully pushed Yiqing Luo's head into his arms. His footsteps quickened. Yiqing Luo refused to let him off. Ah Xian, your ears are all red. You like me that much? DMO Xian looked embarrassed. He pretended to glare fiercely at the girl in his arms, and the corners of his mouth twitched indifferently. Soon after, he bent down and fiercely kissed those pink lips that were still chattering away. Everything in the surroundings was quiet. Looking at DMO Xian's departing back, Tang Beiyuan was unable to retract her gaze for a long time. Just now, Dizun was really shy. She had never seen Dizun like this. That expression, that childish behavior. There was not a trace of the arrogance that he had in the past. He was just an ordinary, pure, ordinary man. The Overlord had truly fallen in love with Yiqing Luo. It was only by Yiqing Luo's side that the Overlord seemed like a real person. A person of flesh and blood, a person of joy and sorrow. No matter how important the Arch Palace is, it's not as important as you. These words kept lingering in his mind. Chapter 1290. Right, it's that the World Mercenary Group's old mansion. Wasn't it the mercenary group which was surrounded by the Yuchi family previously? Mercenary group. They must have offended the enemy, and last night the enemy specially came to seek revenge. That's called burning thoroughly. The surrounding houses are not affected at all. Apparently they are targeting the World Mercenary Group. If it wasn't for the fact that we saw the fire when we were making night watch this morning, I'm afraid we wouldn't know about this matter till now. The surrounding commoners were talking about the gossip which had spread throughout the entire Three Springs city early in the morning. Yiqing Luo originally wasn't interested in these gossips. But indistinctly she heard everyone discussing about burning the World Group enemy. She then diverted her attention to listen. After she understood what the commoners were talking about, her face instantly turned pale like a piece of paper. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo grabbed DMO Xian's robe tightly. DMO Xian's expression was grave as he held her little hand tightly. Let's go back and take a look first. The two of them increased their speed as they sped towards the direction of the old mansion. Before they even got close to the old mansion, Yiqing Luo smelt a thick smell of smoke. There were several commoners surrounding them as they pointed and gossiped. Yiqing Luo's expression turned paler by the minute. She let go of DMO Xian's arm and her figure flashed as she speedily shifted to the entrance of the old mansion. There were several bailiffs from the surrounding as they carried out one corpse after another from the old mansion. Yiqing Luo knocked into one of the bailiffs and the stretcher which she was carrying instantly slipped out of her hands. The corpse on the stretcher fell onto the ground. That corpse was already burnt as it gave off an extremely pungent smell. The bailiffs were sent here early in the morning to carry the corpse as he raised his head and started scolding. Who dares to disturb the official's work? Don't you want your life? When his gaze met Yiqing Luo, the bailiff's expression changed. Three Spring Sect's young matriarch. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about the bailiffs as she stared straight at that pitch-black corpse. How many people are dead? Young matriarch, my condolences. Don't worry, the officials will definitely find the murderer and take revenge for the World Mercenary Group. The bailiff stuttered. In the entire Three Spring City, there wasn't anyone who didn't know Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was the World Group's vice group leader, and this was something which everyone knew. Yiqing Luo's face turned gloomy as she raised her hand to grab the bailiff's collar. "I'm asking you, how many people have died?" The runner's legs went soft. "Currently, the government has carried out more than 30 corpses. Chapter 1291. Diamo Xian comforted her by kissing her forehead. "Don't worry, they will be fine." The trembling young lady in his arms didn't say a word. The little hand that was holding onto his shirt curled up a little more. Diamo Xian's peach blossom eyes squinted slightly as he tightened his arms around her. He lowered his head and pressed his lips against her ear. The young lady's faint fragrance entered his nostrils. His eyes flickered slightly as he suppressed the emotions that he shouldn't be feeling at this moment. He said in a gentle voice, "You're a little pervert, and the people you've trained are naturally perverts as well. If they can't even avoid this little danger, how can they stand by your side and fight alongside you?" Yiqing Luo was stunned. The warm breath on her earlobe kept brushing against her skin. Her long curly lashes blinked, and when she looked at Diamo Xian again, there was finally some spirit in her eyes. Diamo Xian's slender fingers pinched her nose. "Believe in them, believe in the companions who can stand side by side with you." His deep magnetic voice made Yiqing Luo's body softened. Her heart seemed to be wrapped and covered by a warm current. That's right, she should believe in the brothers whom she had her eyes on. She should believe in her own companions. They were no longer the youngsters who were labeled as trash in the past. They already had enough power to stand by her side, companions who could stand side by side with her. Believe in them. Just like how they believed in her, believe in them. Yiqing Luo's nervousness and panic at this moment vanished into thin air. Her lips curled into a smile as she nodded vigorously. "Thank you, Ah Xian." Diamo Xian rubbed her head, held her little hand and pulled her directly to the old mansion which had long been destroyed by the fire. The crowd of commoners and the bailiffs who were watching the show behind them were stunned. That handsome man who looked like a god descended, could it be the legendary overlord? That otherworldly temperament. That flawless handsome face. That awe-inspiring majesty which made one inexplicably submit to him. He emitted a strong demeanor of a monarch. Other than the overlord, there was. Oh, such a man was so intimate with Yiqing Luo? Like a husband and wife, intimately hugging each other, whispering in a warm voice. So, the young lord of the Three Springs sect family really had such a relationship with the overlord. The common people talked about it enthusiastically, spreading the news from 1 to 10, 10 to 100. However, the two of them who had entered the old mansion were unaware of this matter. Not a single part of the old house was left unscathed. The air was also filled with a pungent smell that made one's stomach churn. From time to time, the blackened wood could no longer support its weight and fell to the ground, emitting an ear-piercing sound. Chapter 1292. Dark Forces. Diamo Xian's handsome brows creased slightly as he looked at Yiqing Luo. "Are you sure?" Logically speaking, under the harassment of the Arch Palace, the Dark Forces would definitely not have the time to attack these youngsters from the World Mercenary Group. To the Dark Forces. As long as Yiqing Luo wasn't around, they could casually send out any cultivator and they would be able to squash these youngsters to death like ants. The Dark Forces' target was only Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade and Yiqing Luo only. How could they possibly ambush the World Group at this critical juncture? Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment and slowly shook her head. "I'm not too sure, the profound Yiqi's response is very weak." She took a deep breath and closed her eyes again, preparing to magnify her perception. Suddenly she felt a dull pain in her chest, causing her face to pale. Her fair little hand pressed against her chest, her eyebrows knitted tightly, her breathing heavy. "Don't force yourself." Diamo Xian noticed the change in her expression and grabbed her hand which was placed on her chest. "It hasn't been long since the extraction of the heart bone, your body isn't suitable to use profound energy." Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and didn't persist any further. Even if he could sense the faint mysterious yin qi, it would be useless whether it was from the Dark Forces or not. Right now, the most important thing was to find his brothers so that he could know what had happened last night. The two of them stood in the middle of a group of corpses, their gazes searching through the charred corpses. His heart, which was hanging in the air, gradually calmed down. There were no corpses here. Not a single one. This meant that her brothers were still alive. "Lil Luo, look over there." Diamo Xian pointed towards the direction of the independent courtyard. "Look at the ground." Yiqing Luo followed the direction of Dmo Xian's finger. Countless messy footprints could be seen on the charred ground. Bloody footprints led in the direction of the independent courtyard. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances and both of them rushed towards the independent courtyard at the same time. Following the clear footprints on the charred ground, he arrived at Long Yunzhan's courtyard. The two of them walked in and their footprints finally stopped at the door of Long Yunzhan's bedroom. The bedroom had already been burnt black and almost everything had been burnt down. The ground was covered with piles of charred wood, scattered all over the place. Dmo Xian pulled Yiqing Luo's wrist and shoved her behind his back. Soon after, the wind from his palms stirred, and a hurricane blew up all the wood shavings in the room. Under the layers of wood chips, a square hole was revealed near the corner of the wall. Was that a secret passage? Long Yunzhan's room actually had a secret passage. Is this another secret tunnel that the old man Holy Thief built when he had nothing better to do? In other words, there was a high possibility that the world group members had left through this secret passage? After the hurricane dissipated, Yiqing Luo's figure flashed as she stood in front of the cave entrance. He reached out and touched something near the entrance of the cave. With a ka sound, the entire corner of the wall collapsed, revealing a hole that could fit a person. It was indeed a secret passage. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone brightly as she pulled Dmo Xian's hand and was about to rush into the secret passage. Dmo Xian held her little hand tightly and pulled her behind him. Only then did he take the lead and walk into the secret passage. It was just a casual action, but it made Yiqing Luo's lips curl into a sweet smile. The two of them, one in front and one behind, entered the secret passage. This secret passage wasn't considered spacious, and it was extremely simple. Chapter 1293. This secret passage was about 10 meters long. When the two of them walked out of the secret passage, they discovered that outside the secret passage was an abandoned forest behind the old house that had not been taken care of for a long time. As the commoners said, this fire only destroyed the entire old house. The houses near the old house and the abandoned forest were not affected at all. Perhaps, when the other party burned down the old residence, they had specially set up a barrier to isolate the outside world. On the ground there were countless messy bloody footprints. It was especially eye-catching on the withered leaves. Yiqing Luo took a look at the direction of those footprints. It was the direction to the abandoned forest. Just as she was about to follow the footprints, her ears twitched and her expression froze. Who is it? At the same time, Dmo Xian tightened his grip around her waist. A majestic profound energy surged out from his body, sweeping up the fallen leaves on the ground. A tall figure walked out of the forest, his blue robe fluttering in the wind. When she met that pair of azure blue eyes, Yiqing Luo retracted the vigilance in her eyes as she speedily went up. Ah Zhan, are the brothers all right? Long Yunzhan shook his head lightly. Everyone is safe. Yiqing Luo heaved a long sigh of relief and patted her chest. It's good that you're all right, it's good that you're all right. It's all thanks to the help of the Emperor Palace's disciples sent by His Majesty. They escorted us all the way to safety. Long Yunzhan cupped his hands together as he bowed towards Dmo Xian. Lord Overlord, I represent all the brothers to thank Lord Overlord for lending a helping hand. His tone was extremely sincere. This was his heartfelt gratitude. Last night, if it wasn't for the Emperor Palace's disciples, he wouldn't have been able to ensure the safety of all his brothers. Your little Luo's brothers, this lord can't bear to see little Luo, upset, there's no need to thank me. Dmo Xian hugged the young lady in his arms tightly as he spoke the truth. It was also a declaration to Long Yunzhan. Only he could protect this woman. Long Yunzhan's eyelids drooped down as he tried his best to control himself, not looking at the intimacy between Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. Zhan, are you hurt? Yiqing Luo could smell the faint scent of blood in the air. It floated over from Long Yunzhan's direction. She reached out, grabbed Long Yunzhan's wrist and felt his pulse. Long Yunzhan retracted his hand in a panic. I'm fine, are you all right? Yiqing Luo's expression turned chilly, as her earlier joyous mood that her brothers were safe and sound, instantly congealed. She forcefully grabbed Long Yunzhan's arm and sneered, weak aura, excessive blood loss, you call this fine? Long Yunzhan's thin lips trembled. He lowered his head and did not reply. Yiqing Luo then discovered that Long Yunzhan's frail body was actually trembling slightly. His injuries, it was definitely not light. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression turning colder and colder, Long Yunzhan's brows creased slightly as he explained in an extremely unnatural manner. The ghost doctor has already personally bandaged my wounds, and I've also eaten the pills that the ghost doctor personally refined. I've also obtained the ghost doctor's permission to come here to pick you up. The ghost doctor is here too? He was a person who was afraid of trouble and would rather spend all his time refining pills and researching pills. He actually became a doctor and helped these youths bandage their wounds? Perhaps, it must be because of her. Her ghost doctor master. Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly. It seemed that she owed more and more favors. Yiqing Luo released Long Yunzhan's wrist. Where are all of you now? Are you safe? At the mention of this topic, a strange expression appeared on Long Yunzhan's face, which had always been calm. This is... Shishang Lan looked at Dmo Xian who was standing beside Yiqing Luo. This man's presence was too strong. Especially when he was praising Yiqing Luo, this man's gaze seemed as though he wanted to dismember him. Yiqing Luo held onto Dmo Xian's arm, smiled and didn't answer. But this action also represented the answer to everything. Qing Luo. Earlier when Shishang Lan walked out from the room, Xiao Jin's voice was heard. In the next instant Xiao Jin walked out of the house. He was in a sorry state and his uniform was in tatters. His long hair was disheveled and scattered over his shoulders, and there was a patch of greenish-black under his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with exhaustion and when he saw Yiqing Luo, he forced out a smile. You're finally back. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she looked at the open door. No need to guess, that must be Yan Xiaoyi's room. Xiao Jin's gaze paused on Shishang Lan for a moment. Xiao Jin sincerely bowed towards Dmo Xian. Lord Overlord has lent a helping hand today. If there's any need for me in future, I will definitely risk my life to help you. It could be said that it was the lives of all the brothers in the world group. He was saved by a disciple of the Emperor Palace. The Imperial Palace's disciples protecting them secretly was under Dmo Xian's instructions. No matter if Dmo Xian's action was to protect them or for Yiqing Luo. It was an indisputable fact that the Emperor Palace had saved the world group. Dmo Xian didn't stand on ceremony as he held a smile that didn't look like a smile, his brows raised slightly. There will definitely be a place where I can use you. After walking down 2 long corridors, they arrived at the direction of the medicine refining room. Ghost Doctor was refining medicinal pills while God Thief was chewing on a piece of straw in boredom, looking around the surroundings. On seeing Yiqing Luo entering, God Thief's face was filled with joy. Last Qing Luo, you're finally back. Master Ghost Doctor Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on Ghost Doctor and God Thief for some time, as she hesitated to speak. Chapter 1296. Ever since the last time at God Thief's courtyard, she had seen the both of them. Yiqing Luo felt that they definitely knew each other previously. The Ghost Doctor's appearance here was mostly because of God Thief. Yiqing Luo had a strange feeling. It seemed like Ghost Doctor took her in as his disciple. She met God Thief in Death God Castle and brought him out. Everything. It was fated in the unseen world. Intentional? Yiqing Luo didn't know why she would have such a thought. Only that things happen one after another. The dark forces kept on harassing and attacking her. The more Yiqing Luo felt, the more she felt that everything seemed to be deliberate. Of course, she didn't doubt God Thief and Ghost Doctor's sincerity towards her. She believed that Ghost Doctor and God Thief really treated her like a girl and doted on her. The smile on God Thief's face froze as he coughed dryly. This isn't important. The important thing is... You already know about the old mansion's fire last night, right? Seeing that God Thief had no intention to tell her, Yiqing Luo didn't continue to ask. She believed that one day, God Thief would tell her about his matter. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as her slender brows creased slightly, going along with God Thief as she changed the topic. Our brothers traveled through the night and took different routes back to the old residence, yet they were detected by the dark forces. This is just too strange. To everyone. Devil Class was going to challenge the Overseer on the second day. No matter what, they couldn't possibly leave the West Lawn Square on the night of the challenge. Yiqing Luo had specially asked the brothers to split into different routes to leave the West Lawn Square. Most importantly, other than themselves, no one else knew that Devil Class's students had taken the spirit returning pill. How could the dark forces be so coincidental? Choosing today to set fire to the old mansion? Resolutely setting fire and even sent 200 over dark forces to assassinate them. Apparently they were certain that they were in the old mansion. Moreover, they clearly knew that they didn't have any combat ability and wanted to burn them alive. The old mansion was guarded by God Thief. If anyone investigated the matters in the old mansion, God Thief would definitely know about it immediately. Which means, the dark forces know about our whereabouts. Qiao Jin frowned. Be careful during this period. Pay attention to whether there are any suspicious people around you. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept the surroundings as she suppressed her voice. If the dark forces are really clear of our whereabouts and current situation, then staying here might implicate that young Master Shi. When Qiao Jin and Long Yunzhan heard this, the expressions on their faces changed slightly. Qiao Jin's brows furrowed even more tightly as his face darkened. His shoulder felt a dull pain. His whole body fell onto the wooden chair. His handsome and gentle face contorted in pain. Jin Zi. Yiqing Luo rushed into the room and stopped Qiao Jin's hand. Calm down. Young Master, she has no ill intentions. Saying that, her fingers touched the profound phoenix ring and a pill appeared in her palm. She sent it to Shishanglan and spoke apologetically. Recently, too many things have happened in the world group. Jin Zi is more sensitive and has misunderstood you. I seek young Master Shi's forgiveness. Shishanglan shook his head as he pushed the pill back to Yiqing Luo's hand. Executive Qiao cares so much about the group members. I should be happy that Xiao Yi is in the world group. Chapter 1299. Shishanglan's words were humble and polite. No one could find any fault with them. But the meaning behind his words was, he was Yan Xiaoyi's fiancé. Yes. Shishanglan was announcing his relationship with Yan Xiaoyi. Moreover, it was a declaration that his relationship with Yan Xiaoyi was extremely loving. As expected, Qiao Jin's face completely darkened. Young Master, she has suffered such a serious injury. Aren't there more than 20 doctors in the outer courtyard? Young Master, she had better go and bandage the injury on your shoulder first. Yiqing Luo was worried that Qiao Jin would suddenly explode as she hurriedly interrupted Shishanglan's words. Her eyes were filled with guilt. She pulled Tao Zi to her side. Jin Zi and Tao Zi, accompany young Master Shi to the outer courtyard to find a doctor. Don't let him fall ill. As he spoke, he pushed Qiao Jin, whose entire body was stiff and his muscles were taut, toward Shishanglan. This brother of mine doesn't know how to control his strength. I don't even know if that palm just now hurt the muscles and bones in your shoulder. Shishanglan looked at the livid Qiao Jin. He endured the pain in his shoulder and rubbed it. He smiled warmly and said, I'm fine, it's just a small injury. Before he could finish his words, Yiqing Luo's furious berating voice interrupted his words. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk as she stared at Qiao Jin. Jin Zi. Young Master, she was the one who brought us, who were heavily injured and chased by our enemies back home. He's our benefactor. You've injured our benefactor. Why aren't you taking young Master Shi to the outer court to bandage his wounds? Qiao Jin's expression was still livid, but his face was still tense as he looked toward Shishanglan. Shishanglan opened his mouth as he looked at Yiqing Luo and then at Qiao Jin. Tao Zi, who was standing by the side, took the initiative to pull Shishanglan's arm, while the other hand held Qiao Jin's hand as they walked and tried to ease the atmosphere. What Qing Luo said is right, that palm strike earlier is not light, we must let the doctor take a good look at it. Pulling and dragging, the three of them left the room. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept across the entire bedroom. The furnishings here were exactly the same as the furnishings in Yan Xiaoyi's bedroom in the old mansion. Evidently, in order to please Yan Xiaoyi, Shishanglan had built this luxurious mansion exactly like Yan Xiaoyi's old mansion according to her taste. After the trio's footsteps disappeared, Long Yunzhan's gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. What did you discover? Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze from the surroundings as she slowly walked to the side of Yan Xiaoyi's bed, lowering her eyes as she gazed at the sleepy Yan Xiaoyi on the bed. Xiaoyi didn't fall asleep naturally. On her body, there are still remnants of the sleeping herb's scent. Yiqing Luo looked at the medicinal soup which had already cooled down. She picked up the medicinal soup and gently stirred it with a spoon. Soon after, she brought it to her nose and sniffed it. There's nothing wrong with this medicinal soup. However, there's the smell of medicinal herbs on Xiaoyi's body. This means that Xiaoyi has consumed sleeping herbs before. Long Yunzhan's expression froze. You mean, I have a guess. This was what Yiqing Luo had been guessing ever since she entered Yan Xiaoyi's room. She paused and her gaze collided with Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian caressed her fine black hair. There are no spies in the surroundings. Yiqing Luo was assured as she squinted her eyes and spoke calmly. Shishang Lan brought us to the Shi family's mansion at this juncture. Although this is just a mansion in Three Springs City, but it still belongs to the Shi family. Chapter 1300. Just standing outside Yan Xiaoyi's room door, Yiqing Luo sensed something strange. But after smelling the sleeping herb on Yan Xiaoyi, Yiqing Luo felt strange. Shishang Lan used a sleeping herb to make Xiaoyi fall into a deep sleep. His goal was to let us see how devoted and affectionate he was towards Xiaoyi. Initially, Yiqing Luo felt strange when she saw the half-open door. Especially when he saw that Shishang Lan was the only one in the house, he felt even more strange. If Shishang Lan specially came to feed Yan Xiaoyi medicine, he could totally close the door. Of course, if he was worried that a single man and woman would attract criticism, he could totally leave them alone. But Yan Xiaoyi's door was half open. It seemed to be half hidden. On the contrary, it seemed somewhat deliberate. He made Yan Xiaoyi fall into a deep sleep and specially let them hear his confession and deep feelings for Yan Xiaoyi. Yi Qingzhen had no other way and didn't want to think about it in another direction. This was the reason why Yiqing Luo specially sent Xiao Jin away. Otherwise, based on Xiao Jin's personality, he would definitely attack directly when he knew that Shishang Lan might be using Yan Xiaoyi. What is his motive for doing this? Long Yunzhan asked in a low voice. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes lifted up slightly as she met Long Yunzhan's eyes, as she said word by word, gain our trust, and from there cooperate with the World Mercenary Group. Or, he wants to use Xiaoyi to inquire about the whereabouts of the divine equipment. Shi Yiqing Luo, Three Springs Sect's young matriarch, the World Mercenary Group's vice group leader. The news of him possessing a divine artifact had spread throughout the entire Nirvana realm. There were millions of people who wanted to get their hands on the divine artifact. As long as there was a chance to snatch the god artifact from her hands, he would definitely grab it. Divine artifact. Yes, if he could get close to Yan Xiaoyi and gain their trust. It would be a piece of cake to take away the divine relic from Yiqing Luo. Compared to the goal of cooperating with the World Mercenary Group, they were more inclined to do it for the artifact. When the World Mercenary Group was established, they had upgraded the Mercenary Group to a bronze plate at the fastest speed possible. However, their subsequent development was far too slow compared to other mercenary groups. It had been almost 3 months. The number of members in the World Mercenary Group had not even broken through 100 people. Moreover, after completing those 2 extremely difficult missions, there were only 20 or so team members, and they would take on some small, normal-level quests every few days. It was impossible for Shishang Lan to go through so much trouble just to cooperate with World Connect. Of course, these are only my guesses. Don't tell Jin Zi for now. Yiqing Luo took a look at Yan Xiaoyi, who was still in deep sleep. As for other matters, let nature take its course. She was referring to the matter between Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi. Once the brothers can get out of bed, we will leave this place. In the evening after dinner, Yiqing Luo let Zhao Bo and the rest go back to rest. Last night, no one had the chance to rest at all. Today he had been busy taking care of his injured brothers. He should be tired from being so tense. Yiqing Luo's room was arranged next to Yan Xiaoyi's. Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian had just walked into the courtyard when they heard a sharp voice shouting from outside, "You bunch of dog slaves! You even dare to stop me? Do you know who I am? Get out of my way." After that, a few crisp slapping sounds could be heard. Shishang Lan's expression instantly darkened. He frowned slightly and a tinge of helplessness appeared in his gentle eyes. Chapter 1301. Shishang Lan was startled. He waved his hands and said, "Miss Yi, please don't misunderstand. I don't have any relationship with that lady. If they weren't friends, why would they barge into his old residence and act so arrogantly, even whipping the servants who tried to stop them? No one would believe such a thing even if he said it." Yiqing Luo ridiculed in her heart but did not show it on her face. She only smiled and nodded at him, then pulled Diamo Xian towards her own room. The footsteps behind him had already reached the courtyard. When she saw Shishang Lan, the woman's furious voice could already be heard. "Shishang Lan, where is that little bitch? Young Miss Yan." After hearing the woman's words, Shishang Lan's expression darkened and he frowned slightly. "Isn't Miss Yan's action a little too unbecoming? Demeanor?" The woman sneered and pushed Shishang Lan's chest harshly. "You are a man, yet you brought my sister into your mansion. Even if the two of you are already engaged through the matchmaker's words, before you get married, a man and a woman staying in the same mansion alone, why don't you say it's unbecoming of you?" Shishang Lan was speechless at these words. His jade-like gentle eyes were filled with helplessness. It was as if he was already used to this woman's rude and unreasonable personality. Yiqing Luo felt that this lady's voice sounded rather familiar. And the fiancé who mentioned the matchmaker, wasn't that Yan Xiaoyi? Puzzled, she glanced sideways at the woman. Coincidentally, his gaze met the woman's. The young lady's gaze went past Shishanglan, and when she saw Yiqing Luo who was walking into the house, her face instantly turned pale like a piece of paper. Yiqing Luo? Why are you here? That woman was none other than a stranger. It was the eldest daughter of the Yan family, Yan Xiaoyi's elder sister from the same father and mother, Yan Zhenfei. When Yan Zhenfei saw that Yiqing Luo was also in the Shi family's mansion, she was completely stunned. Towards Yiqing Luo, she hated her from the bottom of her heart and feared her from the bottom of her heart. In the academy, even if it was Yiqing Jian who was the first to step into the earth-profound stage, she was also forced to go missing by Yiqing Luo. Even Lu Shuiyu was defeated. She didn't dare to have any conflict with Yiqing Luo. Why was she so unlucky to meet Yiqing Luo, this god of plague? Yo, isn't this student Yan? Yiqing Luo retracted her footsteps into the house as her lips curled into a teasing smile, as she sized Yan Zhenfei up. Student Yan, in this round of interclass competitions, you've suffered a series of defeats, and it seems that you've been eliminated in less than half an incense's time. I wonder if the Yan family will still love and pamper you like before? Yan Zhenfei's face turned green and white. Yiqing Luo's words were simply stabbing a knife into her heart. Chapter 1302. Yiqing Luo glanced at her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. That gaze, that smile. It was as if he was mocking her cheap pride. As though the pride that he was putting up had long been seen through by Yiqing Luo. Yan Zhenfei's face became redder and redder, mixed with a greenish-black color. Whatever you do in the Yan family has nothing to do with me. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she turned around and walked towards the room beside her. Yan Zhenfei froze in place. She hated Yiqing Luo. But he also feared Yiqing Luo. At this moment she could only allow Yiqing Luo to humiliate her. She didn't dare to retort, nor did she dare to vent her anger on Yiqing Luo. He watched helplessly as Yiqing Luo walked into the room. Yan Zhenfei's fists were clenched tightly, her body trembling slightly. Shishanglan, who was standing at the side, remained silent. His gaze moved back and forth between Yiqing Luo and Yan Zhenfei. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't stop at all as she dragged Diamo Shen back to the room, she smiled towards Yan Zhenfei. Zhenfei, Xiaoyi has just taken her medicine and is preparing to rest. Let's go to the front hall. With that, he walked in front and led the way for Yan Zhenfei. But Yan Zhenfei did not move. Her gaze, from Yiqing Luo's room, looked towards the room next door. A hint of ruthlessness shot out from the bottom of her eyes. That little slut is in this room? Shishanglan hurriedly walked to Yan Zhenfei's side and blocked her view. Zhenfei, let me repeat it again. Xiaoyi is my fiancée and also your sister. If I hear you call me a slut again, don't blame me for disregarding the relationship between our two families. His voice was solemn and his face was devoid of its usual warmth. Yan Zhenfei was frightened by his gaze. She staggered a few steps back and bit her red lips. Shishanglan, is there something wrong with your eyes? How did you fall in love with that bitch? Before he could finish his sentence. However, when she saw Shishanglan's increasingly serious expression, she held back her words. She's trash with a low mystic class. Trash who couldn't even break through to the Yellow Xian realm. What good can she do for you if you defend her? Yan Zhenfei really did not understand. Why would Shishanglan agree to this marriage? After seeing Yan Xiaoyi once, he couldn't forget her. If Yan Xiaoyi and Shishanglan really got married, the Shi family became Yan Xiaoyi's backing. Then it wouldn't be so easy for her to deal with Yan Xiaoyi in future. It might also affect her position in the Yan family. No matter what, she would never let Yan Xiaoyi and Shishanglan get married. He would definitely not allow Yan Xiaoyi to have a single good day. I love her. I don't need any benefits. Shishanglan's voice was deep and his gaze became gentle. His gaze slowly landed on Yan Xiaoyi's room. No matter if she's a low-level mystic trash or a trash that can't cultivate, I love her. This alone is enough for me to treat her well. Yan Zhenfei's fingers trembled in anger. Well, ever since Yan Xiaoyi was born, she was an abandoned chess piece that everyone despised. Her existence was a mistake. Everyone in the world should loathe her and abandon her. What love? That kind of slut didn't deserve love. Yan Zhenfei clenched her fists and charged towards Yan Xiaoyi's room. With a bam, Yan Zhenfei kicked the door open. Shi Shanglan reacted and quickly followed to stop her. Yan Zhenfei charged into the room and saw a woman sitting against the bed with a mocking smile, looking at her coldly. That gaze was as cold as ice. Chapter 1303. You, Yan Zhenfei pointed at the girl on the bed and felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. The person on the bed had a pale face and looked sickly. A head of hair that looked like seaweed spread over her shoulders, adding a hint of weakness to the exquisite and beautiful girl. If she ignored that cold gaze, Yan Zhenfei would probably be stunned by this exquisite face. Was this still her good-for-nothing sister? In her memory, Yan Xiaoyi was lifeless and disheveled all day long, looking like a crazy woman. She still remembered that as long as she got close to Yan Xiaoyi, it was as if she felt the arrival of the god of death. Everyone in the Yan family was disgusted by his lifeless demeanor. But the girl in front of her now was even more stunning than her. How could this be her sister? Miss Yan, how have you been? Yan Xiaoyi's cold voice rang out in the room. Yan Zhenfei felt an inexplicable sense of fear. You are Yan Xiaoyi? How could you be Yan Xiaoyi? Yan Xiaoyi curled her lips and narrowed her mocking eyes. What does who I have to do with Miss Yan? Before Yan Zhenfei could speak, Shi Shanglan forcefully grabbed her arm and pulled her back. Xiaoyi is not feeling well and needs to rest. Go out first. The girl in front of her was really Yan Xiaoyi. She was Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Zhenfei's eyes glowed. Her gaze was fixated on Yan Xiaoyi without blinking. Suddenly, she broke free from Shi Shanglan's hand with an unknown strength. A gust of profound qi broke out of her body and gathered on her palms. Her eyes were bloodshot and filled with hatred and resentment. She slammed her palm at Yan Xiaoyi. Little slut. Yan Xiaoyi, who had disappeared for 3 years, had really returned. And she had returned with a brand new appearance. If not for the fact that the commoners outside were discussing, Shi Shanglan would have brought his fiancée and his fiancée's companions into his residence. She probably did not know about this. She definitely could not let Yan Xiaoyi return to the Yan family. Especially at this time, her father and mother were blaming her for her poor performance in the interclass competition. She couldn't let Yan Xiaoyi steal her position. The Yan family only needed one daughter and that was enough. Yan Zhenfei. Shi Shanglan shouted. He didn't expect Yan Zhenfei to attack just like that. Just as he was about to release his Xian Qi to stop Yan Zhenfei's palm, he caught a glimpse of a red figure outside the door. In the next instant, his body rushed in front of Yan Xiaoyi, opened his arms and suddenly hugged Yan Xiaoyi. Bang! A palm landed heavily on Shi Shanglan's back. Shi Shanglan grunted and spat out a mouthful of blood. The intense pain made him furrow his brows tightly. Shi Shanglan. Young Master Shi, Yan Zhenfei's terrified voice sounded. Immediately following that was Yi Qing Luo's astonished voice. Chapter 1304. I didn't do it on purpose. Yan Zhenfei was frightened by this scene. She trembled and retreated. The person I wanted to hit was that slut. You suddenly charged at me, it had nothing to do with me. If the Yan clan found out that she had injured Shi Shanglan, the consequences were unthinkable. She would definitely be forcefully sent to the Shijing sect by her grandmother. Pa! The crisp sound of a slap resounded throughout the room. Yan Zhenfei felt a burning pain on her face and a metallic taste in her throat. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. The next moment she was pushed against the corner of the wall. A cold blade was pressed against her face. Student Yan, if I hear another word that insults my companion from your mouth, I'll make you speechless for the rest of your life. Yi Qing Luo's icy cold voice sounded like an Azura from hell. Her hand moved a little. The sharp blade cut Yan Zhenfei's neck. This is outside the courtyard. If one is not careful, then it can only be treated as an accident, don't you think? Right? Yi Qing Luo finished smiling. But Zhenfei didn't see any hint of a smile from Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes. You dare? Yan Zhenfei's voice quivered as she stared at Yi Qing Luo in terror. After digesting what Yi Qing Luo said earlier, her expression congealed. What did you say? She's your companion? Yan Xiaoyi was Yi Qing Luo's companion? Could it be that Yan Xiaoyi was also a member of the World Mercenary Group? A member of the World Mercenary Group? What did this mean? That meant Yan Xiaoyi was no longer a wastrel. She had also heard of the World Mercenary Group's matters. But didn't the rumor say that the members of the World Mercenary Group were all disciples of the Emperor Palace? That was why they were able to complete high-level missions that even a gold medal mercenary group might not be able to complete. Was that why he was invincible and became a legend in the mercenary world? How could Yan Xiaoyi have the qualifications to enter the world mercenary group? Yiqing Luo could tell what Yan Zhenfei was thinking about with just one look. She curled her lips and looked into Yan Zhenfei's eyes, saying word by word, "She is my Devil Class's class committee president, and also the executive group leader of the World Mercenary Group, so of course she is my companion." Devil Class, executive leader? Yan Zhenfei was dumbfounded. She stared at Yan Xiaoyi in disbelief, unable to believe what she had just heard. How could this be? How could Yan Xiaoyi be a student of the Devil Class? How could she possibly join the World Mercenary Group? And he's the executive leader of the World Mercenary Group? Executive leader. That was a position second only to the deputy leader. To be able to hold such a high position in the World Mercenary Group, it meant that Yan Xiaoyi's ability was sufficient to lead a mercenary group. No, impossible. She's trash that can't even break through to the Yellow Mystic Realm. Yan Zhenfei's heart was filled with fear as she muttered and shook her head. Muttering softly, Yan Zhenfei's mind suddenly cleared. An image appeared in his mind, in the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Training Forest. He had once encountered an intruder. She still remembered that at that time, there was a ghostly voice that kept chasing after her. That voice kept telling her, "Your opponent is me." At that time she felt that the voice was extremely familiar. It was extremely similar to Yan Xiaoyi's voice. However, his swift and fierce movements had dispelled her conjecture. But now, she was not entirely sure. Chapter 1306. In his memory, Yan Xiaoyi had been neglected since she was young. To Yan Xiaoyi the most important thing was feelings. As long as he gave Yan Xiaoyi a little bit of hope, Yan Xiaoyi would be willing to sacrifice her life for him. Yan Zhenfei thought that she had used kinship in the name of her parents to pressure and deceive Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi would definitely beg Yiqing Luo to let her off for the sake of kinship. As long as she got out of here alive. At that time, he would think of a way to deal with Yan Xiaoyi. But, who would have expected this? Yan Xiaoyi's transformation was so huge. No matter what was said, Yan Xiaoyi still had a cynical and sarcastic look on her face from beginning to end. Yan Zhenfei's expression darkened. It was already her limit to be so submissive to the slut that she had always looked down on. If Yan Xiaoyi still refused to give face, how expensive. Shishang Lan, who had been sitting paralyzed on the wooden chair, spoke in an extremely weak voice after a long silence. The wound on his shoulder had already split open. Just now he had also suffered a palm from Yan Zhenfei. At this moment he looked extremely weak. He called Yan Zhenfei's name softly. "Xiao Yi is my fiancée and will be the Shi family's madam in the future. As the Yan family's eldest daughter, please watch your words and actions." Pausing for a moment, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. "For Xiao Yi's sake, I won't tell the Yan clan about what happened today." When Shishang Lan said that he would keep it a secret, Yan Zhenfei's heart was finally at ease. No matter what, she couldn't be sent to the 10 Scenery sect. Seeing Yan Zhenfei shut her mouth, Shishang Lan then turned his gaze towards Yiqing Luo as he gave a weak smile. "Miss Yi Zhenfei doesn't have any ill intentions. I think I just want to see my sister whom I haven't seen for a long time. If it's possible, can you let her go?" Yiqing Luo did not reply. She looked at Yan Xiaoyi. "This is your house, if you want her to leave then let her leave, why are you asking my Qing Luo for?" Yan Xiaoyi frowned as she spoke in an unfriendly tone. Shishang Lan smiled helplessly. He seemed to be used to Yan Xiaoyi's attitude towards him. He looked at Yan Xiaoyi gently. The tenderness in his eyes could not be concealed at all. Shishang Lan's fiery gaze caused Yan Xiaoyi to frown. She subconsciously looked at Qiao Jin, who had not said a word since he entered the room. Qiao Jin's gaze fell on her. His face was gloomy, and a storm seemed to be brewing in his eyes. They had been partners for so long. Yan Xiaoyi could tell with one look that all the muscles in Qiao Jin's body were tensed up. That was a sign that he was angry. Every time Qiao Jin was enraged, his body would tense up. Is he angry? Was he angry because of her relationship with Shishang Lan? In other words, was Qiao Jin jealous? This thought caused Yan Xiaoyi's heart to beat faster. However, this feeling of heartbeat did not last for long. Qiao Jin had already shifted his gaze away, turning around to leave the room. His steps were extremely heavy, and he was suppressing his extreme anger. Jin Zi. Yiqing Luo turned her head to look at Xiao Jin, who had already walked far away, and took a look at Yan Xiaoyi, feeling somewhat speechless towards Xiao Jin. At this moment, shouldn't he express his concern for Yan Xiaoyi? At least in front of Shishanglan? He had to stabilize his position. Why did he just turn around and leave without saying a word? Even if he wanted to act cool, this wasn't the way to do it, all right? Xiao Jin, you really don't want a wife anymore? Yiqing Luo's inner heart was about to collapse. Why did she have a déjà vu feeling that the emperor wasn't anxious, but the eunuch was anxious? The atmosphere froze. Yan Zhenfei saw that no one's attention was placed on her. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.